Jim Valvano's fight against cancer.
The Tar Heels triggerman, Sam Howell's had a superb sophomore season. High-powered offense heading to Miami. Mack Brown's program is ascending, but today they meet a growing rival, the Hurricanes of Manny Diaz, seeking win number 9 and a potential Orange Bowl bid and trying to avenge last year's gut punch in Chapel Hill. Regular season finale for both teams here in Hard Rock Stadium. Welcome to ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by PlayStation 5. And today's first ever top 25 matchup between the Carolina Tar Heels and the Miami Hurricanes. And welcome, Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, our regular season finale of 2020. We're all across the landscape. The rules seem to change hour by hour, but I promise you, behind the mask, we are smiling. Number one, because you made it here from West Point and game day. Barely. And
We're
number
here.
two, because we got a fun game today with a lot in the line. The Orange Bowl game 3 weeks from tonight. It's in play for the winner if Clemson and Notre Dame both make the playoff out of the
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting for both these teams. You know, we live in this era of who's in the playoff, and you know, that seems to be the focus. But here's two teams that have had great years. How fitting they're playing late like this, and both have a chance still. Huge things in front of them, and I think they're both incredibly motivated to be here.
If you like big plays, this is your game. Combined, these teams got 37 touchdowns of 30-plus yards. Only Bama has more of those than Miami does.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch this offense really grow under De'Ara King, who transferred over from Houston. He's been talked about a lot. You can look at the numbers. Chris just talked about how explosive they've become. To me, it's his personality. He is very humble. He is very chill, very laid back. Whether he throws an interception or you can see 20 touchdowns, you're going to get the same reaction. I really think he's impacted not just this offense, but the defense. They believe in him, and they believe they can win games. That's why they've been able to find ways to win them.
Tremendous skill player arsenal for Howell in North Carolina. They started fast against Notre Dame, but then sputtered. Kirk, what's the takeaway from that?
Well, the takeaway for me is that Notre Dame, and you and I were there and talked about it, Notre Dame's linebackers were attacking downhill and not so much affecting Howell, it was affecting the running game. And in this offense, you take away their running game, it's kryptonite. It diffuses their ability to make those explosive plays in the passing game for Sam Howell. So Miami today, watch them blitz those backers and see if North Carolina has an answer 2 weeks later after that Notre Dame game.
Yeah, both defenses today have a serious challenge with the playmakers on both sides. A lot on the line. The Tar Heels and the Hurricanes on a pleasant December day. Miami going with the all-black uniforms on Senior Day. Stick around.
All you gotta do is get high.
Are you kidding me? Another Carolina touchdown. Sam Howell has done it all today.
There'll be two great quarterbacks certainly on display.
Into the end zone! Touchdown for Miami! Someone please crown the king!
Is on the AT&T countdown to the College Football Playoff National Championship, Monday, January 11th on ESPN.
And the Hurricanes take the field. Haven't played a home game in 7 weeks. You're watching a presentation of the ACC on ESPN, regular season capper of a very successful season for the conference. Maria Taylor also making the scene shift from West Point to South Florida. Welcome, Maria.
It's great to come down to warmer weather and join the Miami Hurricanes and UNC Tar Heels. And how about this? The importance of the game has not been shied away at all, Chris, from their head coaches. Manny Diaz says the mantra all season is that, hey, look, winning is easy, but it's not simple. When they got the schedule, they took a look and said the losses we need to avenge from last year start at FSU and run through UNC. And they know that an Orange Bowl is on the line. He's been very honest with his team, while Mack Brown said he's been dreadfully honest. And how about this for just a little bit more motivation? He showed the graphic where we revealed that we believe Texas A&M and Miami will be playing in the Orange Bowl, just so they know what's at stake and that they can prove everybody wrong.
Coach will use anything, Maria. That's based on the projections of the current rankings, and Mac knows that, but he's not above a little motivational to stoke his team up.
Of course. Whatever it takes to get a team fired up. You see that every week with coaches trying to find ways, especially this year, to get their guys dialed in and feel being challenged.
Very even series over the years. Tar Heels a slight edge, but they've split the 16 meetings in the ACC. But again, the first ever top 25 meeting between these programs, Kirk, that figure to battle for supremacy in their half of the ACC going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot here because of the history of Mac and Manny, their time at Texas together, but also what these teams in relatively new eras, especially with Mac and what Manny have done here. And I think these players are buying into the new direction that they're being led right now.
Miami will get the football first. Jonathan Kim to boot it away. It's the usual 20% of capacity, 13,000 fans widely spaced here. We'll see De'Aaron King and this high-powered Miami offense first. What we anticipate to be a shootout and the highest scoring season in ACC history so far. Mike Harley, the receiver who's on a tear, is back deep. And he will bring it out. Harley looking for a crease, has one. He closes down quickly, and he's tackled at the 21. De'Aaron King criticized for his decision to leave Houston, but it's worked out well for him.
First and foremost, this decision I made was probably the hardest I've made so far in my life. I think it was the decision best for my future and my college experience.
I love this team. I'm so glad I came here. I love the University of Miami. I just want to do everything I can, everything we can as a team to finish on the right foot.
About King's future and his present. Cam Harris is the back on this first play from the 21 and from the pocket. King has plenty of time, launches down the seam, and it's broken up beautifully. Tried to get the ball to Mark Pope, and coming back was Kyler McMichael to get a hand on it.
That was a great play design, great execution, and a better play by Kyler Murray out there on an island. I love that Rhett Lashley puts the ball in the hands of his quarterback and playmaker and says, let's do it. Let's attack. Let's send a message. And McMichael, he was beat by a step, but had that catch-up speed to knock it away.
King takes off on second down. One of the most dangerous running quarterbacks in the country. Just like that, they move the sticks.
Yeah, he read the linebacker, 44. He just ends up flying out to the outside. And once he saw that, he realized he had a chance to pick up the numbers. Big advantage there. You got to watch out with the RPO game.
15-yard gain. Now King in the pocket. Flips it, caught. Underneath, catch made by Harley. 3 out of the last 4 game, Kirk's 150-plus receiving yards.
But they are clearly in aggressive tempo mode here early, just trying to be the aggressor, trying to attack, trying to get Carolina on their heels. They're not slowing down at all.
17-yard gain there. Harris makes a cut and is knocked down after a 7-yard gain.
Lashley Fields, he's done a great job, as a new coordinator coming over from SMU, and really has taken advantage of these playmakers, but especially the quarterback, and picking up his system.
He looked to take a shot on second and short, now just has to throw the ball away. Nobody open, and Tyrone Hopper came under pressure.
Well, he wanted to take a shot downfield, and I'm always so impressed with Tony Grimes, number 20. I mean, he's out there. You got to live on an island in this kind of defense that Jay Bateman will implement today. He's going to be aggressive. He knows he has to with a running quarterback. His safeties a lot of times are going to be involved in run support. So it puts 20 and 1 often out there by themselves, and they have the ability to hold up. We've already seen that a couple times this opening drive.
Donald Chaney, the freshman, is in the game. Jalen Knighton, the other true freshman running back, not available today with a shoulder injury. King takes off again. And another easy read and another first down carry to the 36.
Wait, North Carolina knew what was coming. I mean, you knew that Chaz Surratt's been looking at it all week. When they go to the receivers all the way to the sideline on third down, here comes number 1. It's going to be 1 against 21. It's just the way it's going to be today. Big hit right at the first down marker, but you can see that De'Aaron King is a physical runner, really runs like a tailback. Low center of gravity, over 200 pounds, not afraid to lower his shoulder.
Damari Fox, the starting defensive end, number 56, the sophomore from Georgia, is down on the field. They're not terribly deep at the D-line. They have a lot of freshman backups, so Heels fans hoping Fox can get up and continue. Damari Fox on the Carolina sideline, standing up, a helmet on. That's a good sign. Miami, 6 plays. They moved it 43 yards. Nice run-pass mix on first down. King keeps it again. He's slippery and he's strong, and he works his way for about 7 more, Kirk.
I don't know if there has been a player. I mean, there's some great players this year that have had incredible years. But if you look at where Miami has been and where they've been for maybe 18 to 19 years and where they are this year, I don't know if anybody's impacted their team as much as De'Ara King with his playmaking ability and belief.
Slings it on the far side. That's an unusual place for a tight end to be, but Brevin Jordan will move all over the place. And a nice open field play. He stopped for no gain there by Conley, the freshman.
That's a true freshman eliminating that space in a hurry. They think he will be a superstar. For him to come in, Brevin Jordan's an outstanding player with the ball in his hands after the catch, and he keeps him short of that first down. Didn't hesitate at all.
Will Mallory in the game. They're excited because both their excellent tight ends, Mallory and Jordan, are healthy. Now, it hasn't happened that often this season. On third down, Tar Heel defense makes a stand. Harris gets absolutely nothing. So 2 consecutive stops at the line. Vlahasic, the nose guard there.
Yeah, he's right here. Watch him use his arms, get extension, and then rip through Gaynor, the center, gets off of him. See his eyes? See how he's peeking into that backfield? Allows him to know which way he needs to leverage that center. So he uses those arms, gets extension, just looks into the backfield, and then sheds the block. Great play there on third down.
Jose Barragales, a grad transfer. Much improved kicking game for the Canes since last year's loss to Carolina when a missed field goal cost him. The transfer from FIU comes in making 17 of 19. Not his prettiest, but the line drive is good from 46. And the guy who would be a worthy winner of the Groza Award puts Miami on top 3-0.
Give me that name one more time.
Barragales.
College football on ABC is presented by PlayStation 5. Play has no limits.
Connor Barth with a walk-off, and down came the goalpost at Kenan Stadium. That's the last time Carolina beat a top 10 team 16 years ago. All-State bus down here helping us keep up with the action. Kirk, what's the protection spotlight from All-State today?
Well, I'm going to go back to the game that you and I called and the job that Notre Dame's defense did. What they did was they attacked with their backers. Defensive line got upfield and they negated that running game. Once you take away that North Carolina running game, it's proven all year that they are not the same team. You look at the numbers in that game in comparison to what they did all season. Notre Dame, really, especially in that second half, look at that 87 yards rushing, only 17 points. Look what they've done the rest of the year. So this is an offense that's predicated upon balance, and it starts with their ability to run the ball to set their run-pass option up.
Only had 163 total yards against the Irish after those 2 opening touchdown drives. They got shut down. So here is Sam Howell chasing all kinds of milestones and landmarks. Ches Surratt, the linebacker over the heels, had the record in Carolina for yards until Howell broke it in high school. ACC Freshman of the Year. He's improved this sophomore season. 26 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions.
Well, this offense has been as explosive. Actually, they're third in the nation. As you said, Chris, 72 plays of 20 yards or more, and it's been both, the run and the pass. It's not just their passing game.
Michael Carter, part of this extremely good running back tandem, needs 63 for 1,000 yards today, and off and running already. And he's going to have the ball punched out of bounds, but he picks up a first down. Bubba Bolden on the stop.
Boy, if that's an indication of what could go on today, that's a great start for North Carolina, running the football and the offensive line. You know, they're concerned about how Miami's style is up front as they want to get upfield. But boy, nice first play there to get things going.
They fake it to him, and now Howell looking to launch downfield. It's Brown. He's got it in stride. De'Ami Brown, dynamic play to the Miami 12.
Well, they motion Daz Newsome over to get this isolation. Good job getting to the inside, and then it's just, this tells you about the chemistry and how they get the ball downfield to De'Ami Brown. Sam Howell is as good as anybody in the country with that vertical pass, the accuracy on it, and when he gets Brown to isolated one-on-one, those Miami corners better hold on and not lose phase.
Man, he found the football in the sun. It was no problem. Now on first down, they try to get it to Javonte Williams. The throw was low, and he loses yards.
So you see Daz Newsome, he started on the left. They bounced him over to the right, and now you got all that motion, all that room there to the left to work with. Look at all that room outside, and with that accuracy, if he has time to throw, look at it, does not break stride. And hey, without shades, that's a pretty good effort going from the shade into the sun.
Big time. Big time.
Looking right back up into the sun.
Beautifully executed on all fronts for the Tar Heels, and they are threatening to jump in front. It's a very, very fast starting team. first drive touchdowns in 8 of their last 10 games. Howell has time across the middle. Garrett Walston, the tight end, has got it. He's down near the marker at outside the 2-yard line, just short.
Good job up front by that offensive line. Sam Howell showing his ability to work through his progressions. You know, he was off to the right, came all the way back to the left, where he eventually found Walston with a lot of space to work with in the middle after a blitzing middle linebacker.
This is what the Carolina offense has done to just about everybody early in games this season. It's Daz Newsome in motion, and Williams fighting. He'll be wrestled by Zach McLeod short of the goal line, but it'll be a first down.
That time Zach McLeod got in there. You know, if you're going to stop this offense, we're going to talk about the linebackers have got to get freed up and make plays. Defensive line have to keep the backers free, and they got to get downhill in a hurry. Because if you don't eliminate that space, these backs are so good, both 8 Carter and 25 Williams. They'll build up momentum. They'll run through tackles.
Williams comes in number 2 behind Najee Harris, who had 20 touchdowns this year.
It's
just one short of that. They're close enough for a measurement. He is tough to stop down near the goal line. 220 pounds, runs with intensity and intent and hunger for the goal line. It's a first down. Phil Longo calls the plays, Kirk, and man, he just come out firing. What an efficient opening drive.
Yeah. When I saw that running play work on that first play, that's a signal for Phil Longo that things are going to go well, because those backers and safeties have to respect that running game, and that's when they really start to make the big plays in the passing game.
2 tights for the Tar Heels. Walston joined by Kamari Morales. Williams running to the left behind both tight ends, who shifted over down near the goal line. Signal short. Jennings and Jonathan Ford stopped him.
Pretty good job again by those backers. Is what I was talking about, and how they can run through the backers that get upfield. This is Jennings, 44, who comes clean. Boom, right there. But look at that contact. Chris going back. Oh, I think he may have gotten that. The physicality of Williams, you talked about inside that 5-yard line. He reached across.
Pylon cam, before the ball hit the ground, did the nose break the plane?
The progressive pylon cam says yes, it did.
There's a whistle. We're going to get the booth. Peter Voss is the replay official in the ACC.
Running on the field, the runner was short of the goal line. That player is under further review.
Tremendous effort, a risky move to reach that ball out in traffic. Let's check the knee when it went down and where the football was.
He's on top of Jennings. His knee is not touched from what I can see.
Well, but
I think he reached out before he touched.
There's another look. Right
Bill
there.
Yeah, right there. Then the elbow touches, right?
Bill Lamagna is with us.
I've got the ball breaking the plane, and then he pulls it back.
Yeah. Then the elbow.
Then his elbow hits.
Yeah.
So replay's got a good shot of this. I can't see them doing anything else except awarding a touchdown on this.
And to look at the pylon cam, expanded
right
view.
there.
Yeah.
Tremendous effort by Williams.
Just exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's done that all year, and Carter's cool with it. Carter only has 7 touchdowns coming in, and Williams has 16 because he's that thumper. He's that guy. And not only is he a big back, he just has some instincts and ability to find some creases and then fight for it, as you saw. I mean, Jennings was right there. He met him at about the 3-yard line, and then he went on his back.
Carter had 3 touchdowns on senior day, the walkover against Western Carolina, and Williams was cool with that too. They have a tremendous relationship. Like Javante says, brothers for life, and Michael seconds that.
Love to see that.
Not the fastest conference in the country. Replay reviews.
No, that was pretty quick, I think, for us 3 lads up here. I think we saw a touchdown pretty quickly.
See if Jeff Flanagan makes it official here shortly. Tick-tock in the ACC, frankly.
Bill, I see your Army hat on there.
Yeah, I was an Army vet. I've got 2 son-in-laws. Matter of fact, one stationed in Afghanistan now.
Awesome.
And with you going up to do the pregame up there,
yep.
I thought I'd wear it tonight.
I appreciate that.
Here we go. Let's just make it official.
After further review, the runner extended the ball past the goal line, resulting in a touchdown.
Delayed celebration for Williams.
8 minutes and 53 seconds.
He's scored now for the 20th time, one short of the Carolina record. That's 3 receiving plus his 17 rushing touchdowns. Impressive 75-yard drive in 7 plays. Less than 3.5 minutes.
What's amazing about his journey is, he's been a linebacker in high school and linebacker even college, short yardage back until Mack Brown and Phil Longo get here and say, hey, you're an every down guy. We can use you out in the open field. We believe in you. The only scholarship offer other North Carolina was the ECU.
Both teams have transfer kickers. Grayson Atkins comes from Furman, knocks it through, and there is a flag on the field. Told everything. Carolina kind of in transition. Let's see if
The point after.
Manny Diaz was a young, hot defensive coordinator. Mack Brown hired him. 2011 was a great season in Austin. 2012, not so much. And then early on in 2013, Taysom Hill and BYU ran for 550, 257 by the quarterback. Dwayne Aquina, the assistant there on the right. Let's just say they were not on the same page, and Mack made the tough decision to fire Manny the week following that game. They say they're okay now, but it's always got to be a little bit personal, right? When on the other sideline fired you?
Yeah, I think there's mutual respect always, but anytime you go through something like that, you're a little extra edge this week for sure, especially in Chapel Hill this week.
Corey Couch roughed the kicker on the PHC. That's why the kickoff was from the 50-yard line, so the easy touchback. Mack Brown announced one of Miami's games when Manny was here as an assistant in 2017. It's cordial now, but still, there's something there still.
Of course.
At least for Manny.
Well, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Nothing would make him happier, and I think Mack acknowledged that this week with us. He said, there's going to be a little bit more here for Manny. He respects. I think it's a good relationship, but of course he'd love to beat me for sure.
Harris is pushed sideways and wrestled down. Conley, that freshman again with a tackle for loss.
Well, I can see why they like him. He's an aggressive, instinctive player that can play out in space, but reads against the run and can get upfield. Gets underneath the block of Brevin Jordan, then back outside with his quickness. Outstanding play. Second time he's flashed today.
Jordan just totally whiffing in the block. King throwing now and throwing incomplete. Pope, the intended receiver, on the far sideline. And suddenly it's 3rd and 17.
That game we did against Clemson, I thought that night that D. Wiggins and Mark Pope and Mike Harley had a rough night, had a really rough night. And the next week they were challenged, opened up to every position, starting position receivers. And I think De'Ara King and these receivers have gotten much, much better in the second half of the season, but they're going to be challenged by these Carolina corners today.
Yeah, the Hurricane receiver is totally shut down. Non-factors in that route up at Death Valley. 3-man rush against King on 3rd and 17. Scrambling, trying to make something happen. And he'll be chased down at the 26 by Conley and Chaz Surratt. Here comes the punt team.
Pretty good effort. You see Chris Collins. I mean, this is what it takes. You mix up the looks. Jay Bateman's been blitzing. This time he rushes 3. It shows blitz, but ends up just bringing 3. You can see on the backside of De'Ara King. Look at Collins, 6'4", 245 pounds, trying to catch up with him. He gets close, but the fact he chased him out with 8 in coverage with their eyes on the ball, they're able to rally to it.
Excellent punter, the 27-year-old Aussie, Lou Headley. Miami is number 2 in the country in net punting. More than 44 yards. That's tremendous effort. Headley just booms it down there. Newsome, he'll make a fair catch at the 28-yard line.
Yeah, that opening drive for North Carolina is about exactly how you draw it up for Phil Longo. Good run early to start things off by Michael Carter. That gets the attention. You get man-to-man. You create one-on-one at the top with one of your better receivers, especially your best vertical threat, De'Ami Brown, and you can see the accuracy downfield. That's North Carolina offense right there. Chris and I saw that in the first couple series against Notre Dame, and then it kind of went away. We'll see if Miami can try to adjust as well, but it just right now feels a little different with how North Carolina is attacking on that opening drive.
Sam 3 for 3 on that drive. The big 51-yarder to De'Ami Brown. Straight back. They pick up the rush. Throw is underneath. Miami Kirk, their coaches like the matchup with their front and this Carolina offensive line. Can they affect Howell enough today?
Yeah, Quincy Roche will be coming in from his backside when he drops back to throw two. But I think one of the great stories in college football this year has been Jalen Phillips, number 15. He'll be on the right side of the offensive line and in the face of Sam Howell. Transferred over from UCLA. We'll talk more and more about his story, but one of the pleasant surprises in all of college football, what he's been able to do for this Miami defense.
Not a good season, a great season, an elite season. But Williams busts through his seam, and they'll move to 6 again across the 40. Bubba Bolden stopped them.
Nice slow developing play. You rely on the back, Williams, to just kind of be patient and find that crease, and you can see the acceleration.
Slow developing, but fast between plays, off and running again. And another huge gain. Yards after contact. He's among the best in the country.
You better wrap up when Javonte Williams is running the football. I mean, the second time they use this kind of counter play where you're able to bounce the ball to the outside, and when you're able to bounce that, he takes it and just lowers his shoulder into the safety and backers.
Yeah, Mari Carter unable to wrap up. Now Howell under pressure, throws into traffic, and it was almost intercepted. Ivy was tracking across as he tried to find Newsome.
Well, I think he had to force that and hurry that throw because of what was happening in the backfield. Both Roche and Phillips were able to get to him. He's got some open receivers. That's a play that takes some time. You can see a little bit of confusion. Daz Newsome, he started to continue to head to the corner, and Howell, because of that pressure, tried to pull him back on his route. So a little bit of a miscommunication why we had a pass unable to be completed.
Both those ends you talked about had him in a sandwich. They dumped it down to Carter. They used their backs a lot as receivers, but the Canes were ready. Wayman Steed, a backup linebacker, tackle for loss.
Yeah, he's got a little bit more speed, Steed, when he gets in there, and that time, good job of just reading it.
How long throw, and it's intercepted by Ivy, who just stepped right in front of De'Ami Brown, his second pick in the season.
Chris, watch this technique by DJ Ivy. It's almost like he's the wide receiver. Watch his technique and how he turns and gets his body completely turned around with his head on the quarterback, so he knows when the ball's in the air. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to the route. Manny was trying to get a timeout, so he didn't have 12. You can see right there his hands trying to get his hand or get the timeout before the penalty.
A subtle flag by the side judge kind of dropped it on the field, so it negates the interception. A big play. Playing that fast, it's hard to get guys on and off the field, Kirk, for the defense.
Yeah, they were flying in between those last two plays. I wondered if Miami had just the 11. Of course, North Carolina did not substitute. So you've got the big fella right here trying to get off. Clearly does not. And there's Manny right there trying to get the timeout.
And he didn't get the timeout either. Makes it a 3rd and 9 play now from the 35. We'll see how costly that is for this Miami defense. 3-man rush. Howell, flag out, fires. It's complete on the sideline. That's Brown again. Now we'll check the marker.
Yeah, just a free play. I mean, Miami jumped off sides in front of him, and so he could have taken a shot downfield if he wanted to the end zone. Instead, he just takes the first down to Brown.
Wow.
Offside, defense number 15. The penalty will be declined. The play made a first down.
That was Phillips. Remember, Roche jumped offside against Clemson early in that game down there in Death Valley. The Canes never recovered from that penalty that kept a Clemson drive alive. Ryan Anderson, the center, down on the field.
Taco Bell's Nachos Party Pack. Delicious nachos topped with all your favorites. Only at Taco Bell.
What are the conversations like in the Miami defensive huddle between Diaz, who's obviously heavily involved, and Blake Baker right now?
Well, you got to shake off the penalties. You know, you said it. Potentially game-changing interception by Ivy, at least at this point in the game, and to have that negated, taken away, you can't dwell on it. You know, you can't make one bad play and lead it into 2 or 3 bad plays. Now, they had a chance to get him off the field, get the ball back to De'Ara King, and they blew it. But you can't, as I said, if you're in that huddle right now, you got to be talking about, hey, let's get back. You know, new series of downs. Let's get back to trying to be aggressive and get the ball back.
Reminds me a little bit of the game between NC State and Miami. That was a Friday night shootout. Kane's defense was rocked, confused, Diaz was a little rattled early. Now they came back to win with some King magic in the fourth quarter, but this has a kind of a similar feel at the start.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I said about North Carolina's offense. Felt different to me. Their first series, just really confident in what they were trying to do with their execution. You know, studying the film all week, and finding the matchups that they like, being able to run the ball. And it just continues here in this, other than the interception that was negated with the flag, it feels the same here on this drive too.
139 first quarter points for the Tar Heels this season. They've been the best team since the start of last year in the first quarter in terms of scoring margin, trying to add to that here. Johnson replacing Anderson at center. Howell flips it across the middle. Big hit delivered, but a nice catch made in traffic by Carter. That's a running back.
Well, that's a gutsy throw, throwing it late over the middle like that. Watch the backers just kind of keeping their eyes, watching, seeing who might be coming in as a crosser, communicating. Everybody try to get on the same page. Just throwing this gutsy throw. He got away with one there.
Carter comes from Florida, but it's a long way from here. Navarre up in the panhandle. They fake it to him. Howell trying to get the edge. He does, knock down hard at the 5-yard line by Carter and Jalen Phillips.
It's a good read, but you'd like to see De'Ami Brown do a better job of blocking. Right there, Ivy gets off the block by Brown, and if you want to be a complete receiver, you got to sustain that block. It's not just about catching touchdowns in this offense.
Second and goal, nose just inside the 5. Flipped across the middle, catch made in heavy traffic. Newsome stretching, was not quite able to reach the ball across the goal line before Keontre Smith stopped him. Third down coming up.
Well, the progressive pylon cam will give you a good look at this. Really put Miami in a tough spot. Keontre Smith, number 4, he either had to take Michael Carter, who slipped out of the backfield, who was going out to the sideline. He was kind of caught in between. No matter which way he went, Sam Howell was going to go the other direction, and eventually he found Newsome underneath.
Starting center Anderson back in there now in this third and goal play from the 1. Williams is the back, and they shift all those tight ends around, and now Howell's going to come under center. Hand it off to the big fella, one of the upbacks inside, and he did not make it. A little trickery down close. They are rarely under center.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange call, a funky formation, like a reverse wishbone, like diamond formation. They give it to Williams, their go-to guy, but give Miami credit for the push that they got up front. Good surge underneath.
Offense on the field on 4th down as Mack Brown tries to stretch the lead on the road here. Big moment early in this game. Play clock at 7. Gotta hurry. And they'll spend a timeout. They spotted it on the far sideline, and Mack Brown trotted down there. They'll get the shield fogged up in the high humidity down here. Important play because Tar Heels are hard to catch once they get a lead. Chance to go up 11 here. Tonight, Saturday Night Football on ABC. Pac-12 rivalry between USC and UCLA. The victory bell on the line. Dave Pasch, Greg McElroy, Holly Rowe will have the call from the Rose Bowl on the ACC network. Rivalry game between Virginia and Virginia Tech. The Hokies, we were there last week, very, very fired up to get that trophy back from Virginia that ended a long streak against them last year in Charlottesville. What do you think here on 4th down, Kirk? Williams is the safe bet. He's just been the down maker.
Yeah, I mean, you would think they'll try to get him the football, but after a timeout, well, they're going to try to find a one-on-one matchup to give him maybe the option if he chooses to take it or hand it off to the big man.
Option. Williams will walk in and just leap across the goal line for what's a milestone touchdown for him.
You know what's great about that call is you got man-to-man on the outside, and you just option off the best player on that defensive front. You take him out in Jalen Phillips. Nobody had to block Phillips. You attack him with the quarterback, let him pitch it, and you got to receive. All three receivers are out blocking in front of Phillips. Good call there.
And 2 touchdowns today gives Williams a share of the Carolina single season record. The great Don McCauley had a monster 1970 season. College Football Hall of Famer at 21 touchdowns. The number 25 has now equaled that, most in school history.
So you got Jalen Phillips right here as a simple read, and then you got all three receivers out here manned up, but instead of worrying about running a route, they're just going to make a block, little pitch, and now you got the big man Javonte Williams who can walk into the end zone. So that interception, obviously, we knew it was going to be costly. Ends up cost them 7 points.
McCauley broke O.J. Simpson's NCAA single season rushing record in that 1970 monster season. 2-time ACC Player of the Year. Williams equaling him in the same number of games. Of course, they played fewer back then. And it means a lot to him as a North Carolina native. 14-3 Tar Heels, 2 possessions, 2 touchdowns, just like the Notre Dame game we saw a couple weeks ago.
This should be an important drive for De'Ara King. They need an answer on this coming up drive. Like you said, you don't want to give Sam Howell room to get way out in front of you.
Miami had a 50-yard drive, led to a field goal at the first possession, then nothing on the second drive. Tar Heel fans will love to see this. Number 23 in Chapel Hill before Michael Jordan wore it. Great Don McCauley rumbling down the field with those big shoulder pads. Had just a monster game against Duke. It was the end of the season rivalry there, and was carried off the field that 21 touchdown season. King was a very effective runner in that opening possession, but they contained him in the second drive, looking to throw in first down. They get the ball out to Harley, and he's got blockers. Nice blocks, by the way, out to the 45.
We had 3 blocks, and you've got a slot receiver without anybody on him. You're just trying to get the ball to him in space and try to get behind the blockers in front of you, and he can accelerate and make huge yards. He's going to throw this.
Double pass. Jordan took a look, and now the tight end shows his athleticism. It was a lot of fun for about a half-yard gain before Gemmel, the linebacker, stopped him.
You know, I mean, I think he showed it too soon. I mean, it's clearly a lateral. They threw a pass like this earlier, but I think Brevin Jordan went to show pass, and even the receivers are showing. I just feel like they tipped their hand there, and that's why he had no one downfield. North Carolina's defense wasn't buying it.
Brevin's a great tight end, maybe not the greatest poker player. He didn't sell that well enough. Slam, but he can catch the football. That's what he does best right there. Make the catch, first down inside the 45.
Yeah, that's his game. Good read by De'Ara King with slants. See, he's got a couple slants, so actually all 3. Just has to read Gemmel. Gemmel takes the inside with 3, Farley, and it opens up for Brevin Jordan.
Playing with tempo and first down from the pocket, delivers a strike to Harley. And that's another gain of about 11. Oh, it's incomplete now. Couldn't complete the catch. Drops have been a problem for this receiving corps. Morrison was there in coverage.
Yeah, I think as Morrison hit him and he went to the ground, the ball came out. Morrison kind of plays with a chip on his shoulder. He's undersized at 5'9", back there as a safety. Most safeties have a little bit more length, but they just have to get him on the field because of his competitive spirit.
He's been the most targeted defensive back in this Tar Heel secondary. They'll rotate the safeties to keep him fresh today. They know they have to with Miami playing fast. King took a quick look, but this is a designed run, and he's able to weave forward and pick up about 7 before Conley made another tackle.
You know, I mean, that's where he has the option. You talked about how he wanted it, and actually he's just given that look. He's given the look like they've been throwing a lot out to the outside. Watch him give it a little shoulder, but it's a quarterback counter the entire way.
Hands it off inside, and Chaney fighting, but not fighting for first down yardage. McMichael stopped him. Diaz needs a yard here on 4th down now. Final minute of the first quarter.
These defensive backs are needing to get involved in run support when they are running the ball with King. Here we go.
No hesitation. Heel's defense wasn't really set. Chaney, did he get there? I don't think so. The freshman slammed right into a wall, and the Tar Heel defense and Chaz Surratt, who had a nightmarish start at quarterback the last time Carolina came here. He's having a heck of a year at linebacker.
Watch here in the middle. We talked in the opening drive. He's going to have opportunities. He's freed up. Boom. I love that he didn't hesitate. I love that he knew the down and distance. Situational awareness. Realized he had to attack. Once he saw the ball, he's able to get into that backfield and keep him short of that first down.
That's an enormous play from one of the best linebackers in the country, a Butkus semifinalist.
Great instincts for a guy that's played quarterback. Has incredible instincts and just feel for the game.
Got an incredible day with the Surratt family coming up on draft day. His brother Sage is a receiver at Wake Forest, is also a top 2 pick. Look out, Carter's in the secondary and down the sidelines. It's a foot race. Can they catch him? They cannot. The Heels, 3 possessions, 3 touchdowns, stretch the lead.
Miami's going to get upfield. And when they get upfield, you can get underneath them. That's what they wanted to do in this game. Get upfield, make them pay for being vertical as a defensive line. And then that's just poor tackling in the back end by Miami. It's one thing to be able to get creased with the defensive line, but when these backs get to that second and third level in space, they wanted to make Miami tackle them in space with quickness and with power. And so far, they are 3 for 3 on drives.
Credit the receiver Simmons with the block on the edge. Some critical plays. Miami penalty negates an interception. Carolina scores, and then the Tar Heel defense and Surratt makes a stop on 4th and 1, and that didn't take long. 65-yard romp on the first play.
We talked about how explosive they can be. I mean, 208 yards in the first quarter with 3 drives. I mean, it's
Miami allowing only 366 per game. To Kevin Nagandi for an update in the studio. Kevin? Coastal, a lot to play for.
Yeah. I mean, there's still 3 quarters to play in this game, but watching from up here, the team with the white jerseys just seems to be playing with an attitude today. They felt challenged. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. We still got a lot of football left to play, but Miami better wake up and accept the challenge because North Carolina came to play.
Absolutely. And with every possession as they fall farther behind, a little early urgency. Another look at the stop by Surratt in the hole.
Yeah, we had an interception that was taken back that led to a touchdown. We get a 4th down stop with the play by Surratt.
He's a chess whiz in elementary school. And then at quarterback, he was a lefty. It didn't really work out. Had 3 picks here at the stadium. 2 were run back for touchdowns and a loss to Miami. Incredible progression at linebacker. 115 tackles his first season at linebacker, and he's only built on that this season.
Yeah, all conference flipping over that first year.
Try to get the running game going with Harris, and there's a flag. There's going to be a hold on Brevin Jordan right on the edge, so another mistake by Miami. Behind the sticks again.
Holding, offense number 9. 10-yard penalty, still first down.
It's hard to get away with it out in space when you grab a jersey.
Yeah, you saw it right away. The referee saw it right away. And more importantly, it pushes Miami back. They're right now being their own worst enemy in this first quarter.
I mean, they're like a fighter that has just taken about 10 body shots right off the stool, and they're just trying to get out of the first round here. Tar Heels at the end of 1 quarter lead it by 18. Total yards 208 to 91. Back after this message and a word from your local ABC station. Welcome back to ESPN College Football, presented by PlayStation 5. Miami canceled graduation, which was going to be socially distanced here, but the football game goes on. Make of that what you will. Hazel shell-shocked in the first quarter. Trying to respond. Spot foul makes it 1st and 19. King on the run, flips it short. That's Mallory. Sheds a tackle and is knocked down across the 22. They get some of the yards back.
All year we've talked about D'Eriq King, his poise and how he keeps his poise, whether it's good or bad. He's down. His team has dug themselves a hole. This is where they got to rely on number 1 to bring him back.
Long throw could not be gathered by D. Wiggins, and it's a flag out, 3rd and very long. Let's see what the penalty is.
Yeah, it's either a hand up in the face, I think, on the offensive line.
That's the indication from Jeff Flanagan. Another penalty, the 4th on Miami. Carolina yet to be flagged.
And big ones.
Yep.
You know,
crucial. Talked about the one that negated an interception.
Yep. But just saying, D'Eriq King's poise is going to be tested right here.
Illegal hands to the face, number 62 on the offense. The penalty will be declined. 3rd down.
It's Jared Williams. Doesn't cost him yardage.
And the pass rush came to his outside, and to try to get leverage, his right hand gets up into the face of 17, Chris Collins.
Need 13 to keep the drive alive and avoid giving the football right back to Sam Howell. 3-man rush. King takes off. Long way to go and not going to get close. Surratt was spying him and drops him at the 30, and it's 4th down again.
Tamon Fox chased him out, and Surratt did his job, just kind of sitting and waiting. He's showing bliss. He'll drop out of that, and then he's just going to keep his eyes on 3rd down for crossing routes, and then D'Eriq King pulling out. I mean, Miami's done this to everybody with success, where King gets space on 3rd down and makes you pay for it. But with a great athlete like Surratt, he's waiting for it there on 3rd and long.
Daz Newsome waiting for Headley's punt at the 25. This Miami defense, which looked shell-shocked a moment ago on the sidelines, will go back on the field, Kirk, and find some answers. They have not done anything they set out to do. Punt roll is dead at the 20, a 50-yarder from Headley. Take a break.
Well, early in the game, we talked about the job Notre Dame did attacking downhill with their backers. I thought Miami might implement the same thing, but early we've not seen that. These backers are sitting back, absorbing the blocks of the offensive line and giving Carter and Javonte Williams space to work. And then you don't have a secondary that's tackling. So we've seen some explosive plays, and would not be surprised if they try to start getting downhill. You got to take away the Carolina run game to diffuse this offense.
And here's a 1st down bounce by Williams, not able to contain him, and he gets about 6. Maria?
Well, Chris, you mentioned that the Miami defense looked shell-shocked before we went to break, and that's exactly how it looks on the sideline. They tried everything, players coming together and starting their own huddle. Safety, Bubba Bolden telling them to lock in, play Miami defense, and don't let them score again. But the subsequent possession for UNC resulted in a touchdown. Now, Manny Diaz has been very calm on the sidelines, just checking in with his players. They're trying to work it out.
They can't contain Williams again. He's off and running. Another foot race. They're trying to run him down, and they do, but it's down near the Miami 10. Ivy saved a touchdown, but a huge run for 25.
Zudu gets a great block, the left guard pulling here and picks up Jalen Phillips. Watch the left tackle come around as well. He gets underneath that and then bounces it. Nobody containing, and I love to see, there's the receivers blocking and helping their back out. Daz Newsome that time leading the way, but we just talked about, you sit back and absorb and try instead of trying to get upfield, and it can blow up on you.
Look back at FBS offenses in the last 5 years. Only the Louisville team with Lamar Jackson had more explosive plays than Carolina. And they've added to that total here today. They had 100 or 219 coming in of 10+ yards.
And you look at these backs last year, over 1,000 yards each. Now, after what they've done today, Javonte Williams has 100 yards on the game. He's now up and over 1,000 yards, and Michael Carter is as well. So that's pretty impressive when you go back-to-back seasons with a couple 1,000-yard backs.
Miami with some backup defensive interior lineman in there as Carter takes it and falls forward for 2. It's a defense, Kirk. They came in with some swag. They had a road shutout against Duke, the first road shutout since the 2000 championship team. They smothered the Blue Devils. They knew this was a much, much better offense, but they brought confidence into this game.
And I think because Carolina took the fight to them, it just took the wind out of their sails. Maria just talked about the sidelines. We can see it from up here. There's no energy at all down there, and it's shocking that this big a game, so much on the line, and Carolina's taking a fight to them.
Absolutely, and trying to stretch the lead here. Carter bangs forward to the 4-yard line. I mean, you start to about 25-point deficit. I know there's a lot of football to be played, and King's been magical in the fourth quarter, but that's a massive mountain to climb because you got to stop the heels a bunch of times.
Well, exactly, and the only thing that can change the complexion of a game when it's going this badly is a turnover, is a sack, you know, is a fumble with the quarterback, that interception they had earlier with Ivy, something to spark the defense, the energy, because right now they're flat.
Does holding him to a field goal attempt count as a spark?
No.
Okay. Atkins for the chip shot from an angle, and he knocks it right through. So touchdown, 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 field goal for the Tar Heels in their 4 possessions. Moved it 76 yards. The lead is 21.
College football presented by PlayStation 5 on ABC is brought to you by Pacific Life. More than 150 years strong. Trust in your tomorrow.
That was Michael Carter a year ago in Chapel Hill going you down. It's been a little feisty back and forth. Barrios, you saw the response from Miami recent years. It's the Tar Heels who have come to fight, and they have taken it to the Hurricanes here in a game. Potential New Year's 6 bowl game on the line to the winner. Still 10:48 before halftime for King and company to go to work, try to cut into this lead, and they'll begin from the 25. Kevin Agandi. And good for Sarah. She's talked about the lives that she's affected, the girls especially who have reached out to her and said, wow, I never thought this was possible.
Yeah. Really cool.
Good for her. King looking to throw on first down. Pressured, escapes, and throws incomplete. Had to force the ball in there to Pope. It was well defended. McMichael.
And McMichael's had a great game so far. The Clemson transfer. You know, this game for Miami, even before they dug this hole at 24-3, was really about their passing game. With the style of defense that Carolina plays, they've got to pass. They've got to be able to throw the ball to set up run. And right now, only 54 yards through the air.
There's a short throw. I mean, underneath, Pope able to tightrope and make the catch before stepping out. McMichael that time provided the pressure, and it's third down again.
It's one of the first times, other than the Clemson game, I've seen De'Ara King hesitant, antsy, uncomfortable. I think Clemson did a really good job of that in the game that you and I called, and right now Jay Bateman doing a really good job, not just on De'Ara, but on that offensive line, making him really uncomfortable and mixing up looks.
Yep, and right on cue, there's a flinch from that offensive line. This will make it an even tougher third down conversion.
False start. Offense number 60, 5-yard penalty. Third down.
It's their best offensive lineman, Zion Nelson, but the mistakes piling up. Canes just 1 of 5 on third today.
Yeah, the Carolina defense moved together. Watch the left tackle 60. As they move, he flinches and costs them 5 more yards.
Coach's son, King, as you said, usually so poised. He's going to need all of that, draw on all of his football experience right here, because he's going to be swarmed and sacked, and it just gets worse and worse. Gemmel and Tamon Fox got him in a sandwich. Fourth down again.
Yeah, stunt up front where they bring Gemmel, works here. Fox comes around. Watch Gemmel in the middle work through that A gap between the guard and the center. And you know, he's a blitzer. Serrato, a lot of times they'll blitz him, but they'll play him in space where he can make plays. Gemmel's the guy they like to turn loose on third downs because he can get in there and he can get skinny and shoot a gap as he did there.
This Carolina defense was worn down by the Fighting Irish. That 97-yard march. Book and company, they played really well, played sturdily, but didn't have enough late. They have come out inspired from the start today. Good punt again. Newsome retreats, makes the catch, and escapes. Did he step out of bounds? Yes, he did. He was sprinting. There's a flag down way back at the line of scrimmage. They'll spot him out around the 40 of the Tar Heels. And check the marker. Headley, as one Hurricane, has done well today, Kirk, the punter, but that's not the guy you want to star. The Aussie who's just kind of one big tattoo. It's hard to differentiate and count them. They all just kind of run together. It's a hold, though.
Offsetting. They have one on Miami and one on North Carolina.
What are those guys thinking up there? They came in here again. So much to play for. Off their biggest ever ACC win. That was after a 2-week layoff. They went to Wallace Wade and thumped the Blue Devils, obviously stepping way up in weight class, but Manny Diaz could not have imagined a start like this.
No, not at all. Again, especially late in a year like this, they've had to overcome so much. You see Mac Brown, defensive coordinator, in there as well, Jay Bateman.
A bit of conversation Jeff Flanagan is with Mac Brown over there.
2 fouls during the play. Illegal formation offense. More than 4 players in the backfield. During the return, holding receiving team number 7 during the kick. Those fouls will offset. We'll replay 4th down.
It's the first penalty on the Tar Heels.
You know, when you're a coach and you've got a team that's not just down but has no energy on the sideline, it's almost like you're in a fog. There's really nothing you can do. You can't grab them and shake them and try to wake them up. That's why I was saying you need a leader. You need somebody to make a play. So much time left in this game. There's 9 minutes to go in the second quarter. But until
is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, but I'm just saying, until you're able to shake free from this, it's like mentally you've got both your hands tied behind your back here. They're flat.
Headley a low boot. Newsome will have a chance from the 36. Gets past one. Flag comes out. And that's a mistake by the Carolina special teams. An illegal block, so that'll set him back.
Kyler McMichael, the corner, is out. Just pushed a man in coverage just right in the back. So there's a lot of things going on here on these 2 punts.
It's gotten a little ragged. But if you're Miami's defense, haven't gotten the Heels to punt yet. Did hold them to a field goal last time. We keep saying it because it just becomes more and more evident. There is serious urgency. Doesn't matter what the scoreboard, what the clock says. The scoreboard says another thing. And it's hard to come back on this Tar Heel team. They're so potent.
Well, and Mac has a team in his second year on a big stage, and his foot is on the gas.
Both teams. Illegal block in the back. Receiving team number 1.
Don't tell me it's offsetting again, Jeff. Please don't tell me there's one on both teams again.
Personal foul targeting kicking team number 27. That play is under further review.
First, we'll take a look at the block in the back.
Correction. Targeting is on number 26.
Right there.
Play is under further review.
McMichael pushes the couch, the corner who's on the special teams.
It was Gervin Hall, 26, comes in there and lowers the helmet. We'll get Bill Lamagna in his opinion as they do the booth review. We'll take a pause as they rule on Hall and the targeting. Replay reviews the call of targeting so Gervin Hall can stay in the game, and there is just the one penalty on the punt, the illegal block. Bill, your take on the reversal of the call here?
He did get hit in the head neck area, forcible contact, but they haven't deemed him near the ground, I guess, down or near the ground. So that's what got the penalty taken away. So now the only penalty you have is the block in the back.
So if Newsome is a defenseless player, it doesn't matter whether Hall hits him with his helmet as long as Newsome gets hit in the helmet.
Face mask number 1, defense. 15-yard penalty, first down.
If you're defenseless, You get hit with forcible contact to the head neck area by a helmet, by a shoulder, by a forearm, that can be targeting.
Now you see a penalty there, and Silvera grabbed Carter's face mask while he was on the ground, not as part of the tackle. So obviously frustration for the big fella there. That'll cost Miami 15 more, and Tar Heels moving up near midfield. Can you say avalanche in the tropics?
Yeah.
Maybe a tsunami?
Yep.
Mistakes just piling up for Miami. And Carolina has made him pay for every one of them. Play action across the middle. Wide open is De'Ami Brown. And he's got the catch in a first down inside the Miami 40.
Well, and when you run the ball, you get the eyes, and then you have space behind the backers. Watch the backers have to respect that. They step up. Boom. Big hole. That's what Carolina wants. Make you fear Michael Carter and Javonte Williams first, and then that's when you'll see those glance and quick slants off of that play action or run pass option look.
Third catch for De'Ami Brown, had the big 51-yarder in the opening series. Carter again eludes a tackle at the line and is bouncing and running hard, and it's another first down. Remember when he bounced off Amari Carter, the big hitter, the captain for Miami? You spotted something early. That was a serious message sent.
Yeah, early in the game, he bounced off him. But I just love the counter play. He picks it, gets underneath again. Jalen Phillips, watch his little lateral quickness and hops. He's just patiently waiting and waiting and waiting and then accelerating as he's setting up his blocks in front of him.
But when you got a running back who's sending messages to big hitting safeties and then breaking tackles and going for the end zone again, this is getting ridiculous. Heels stretch the lead, and it's Carter who joins his backfield mate Williams in the end zone. Another missed tackle for Miami.
Yeah, it's one thing to really appreciate and look at Mac Brown and Phil Longo's offense and these players and how they're executing. But what's disappointing for Manny Diaz, especially at this stage of the season, is the lack of effort, the lack of tackling. They're just kind of just out there right now. And when you do that against a good offense, you're going to get embarrassed. And that's what we've seen so far.
It's been a very good season for Miami coming into this game. Done a lot of things right. This beatdown in the making will change the narrative here, though. Here's Carter's second touchdown.
Well, the thing that stands out to me is the vision right here of these backers. Watch how they come into this. Because Carter is so short, imagine being a linebacker and trying to find Michael Carter first. That's the first thing. So he's able to get through there, and then it's just poor effort and bad angles by the defensive backs. I mean, he's listed at 5'8", and he gets behind those big offensive linemen. He just kind of sneaks back there, and then before you know where he is, he's by you.
He's off to the Senior Bowl to try to impress NFL people, and he did this last year, and he's doing it midway second quarter here. The downward U, and here's the Canes shell-shock defensive meeting.
That's Manny Diaz right in the middle, trying to talk to him, trying to get these guys' attention and try to get them fired up. I mean, 31-3. Look at their eyes. I mean, they're in shock that this has happened.
There's a whole lot of shock among the Miami faithful here with what was on the line for this team coming in. They haven't played at home in 7 weeks. If they win this game and Notre Dame and Clemson both go to the playoff, 3 weeks from tonight is the Orange Bowl game, and they were lined up and pointed towards it.
Who knows how this game's going to end, right? I mean, right now it doesn't look good for Miami. They've fought back in other games, but if they don't fight, if they don't show a backbone, and if they end up getting embarrassed, if it stays this kind of tone that we've seen, I think it erases all the equity that they've built up.
All of it?
All of it. Based on what we've seen so far.
Harris is going to be stopped behind the line. Gemmel's played a strong game. That man in the middle along with Surratt.
Well, Evans on the outside does a good job of working upfield, just setting that edge for this defense. And there's just no one. He's got to try to cut it back, and you can see the rest of that defense, Gemmel, they're getting off of blocks. You set the edge on a play that's designed to go into the perimeter, And then you have inside presence because they're able to get off blocks with speed and their hands. That's tough.
2nd and 12. King is going to be swarmed. Blitz off the edge. It was Conley, number 0, who got there. He's played a monster first half.
Yeah, Conley ends up coming. He and Gemmel just switch positions. You see right here, 44 is working out to take his spot, and it frees it up to allow him to blitz. There's just nobody there. You know, that's something you either got to get out of as a quarterback or hope that Cam Harris sees it, play side, that blitz is coming, and he can come off of his fake and pick up that rusher.
You think as good as De'Eric has been, he's just glazed right now, just not able to see stuff like that he should clearly see?
Yeah, I mean, you got to either make an adjustment to the protection or kick the left tackle out. Somebody's got to recognize a blitz coming. They're showing it again. I think they'll drop this time.
Yeah, they do. They bail. Just a 3-man lush. King across the middle, and it was off target behind Harley. 4th down.
Yeah, Surratt again showing it and then dropping. And again, what's he doing? He's looking for crossing routes or Derek King scrambling, and there's his instincts. Just kind of take him over to allow him to get into that throwing lane and get a hand on the ball just enough, or that's a completion for a 1st down.
What else can Surratt do to solidify his status as one of the best linebackers in the country? Got a hand on that one, and the big stop on the 4th and 1. That was just an incredibly crucial play in this first half. Headley again. Let's see if we can get a punt without a couple flags. It's a low kick, not much hang time. Newsom's going to have a chance here, and he's going to be penned in. And he's going to lose yards on the return all the way back to the 6. The Affleck trivia question, Bear, with a Jeopardy theme here in honor of Catherine Brown, who won at Jeopardy recently.
Yes.
Mac's daughter.
Yes, in honor of Catherine, we will give you tonight's Affleck trivia question in the form of the answer. And the answer is the last Miami Hurricanes to finish in the top 10 of the Heisman vote. The category is Great Miami Teammates.
There you go. So it's been a long time. So
well, it's Dorsey and McGahee combo, right?
You put that up early. I might have executed that less than flawlessly, because I think it was up there early. Didn't you see it?
Go back to asking questions, Bear.
I like it when he puts the answer up early and then asks us the question. That's I love that. Howell from the goal line for Brown. He's got it. 3 Canes trying to chase him down. And he's finally tackled at the 5. Wow. The big plays just keep coming. And so does the Carolina Avalanche.
Well, Amari Carter ends up getting sucked up on play action, the safety in the middle of the field, so you've got a one-on-one opportunity. And Howell waited to the last second to throw that ball up to Brown.
87-yard game. Miami barely gets to this end of the field, and that time Brown was interfered with. Ivy grabbing him. And this defense, not just shell-shocked, got to be exhausted as well.
Pass interference. Defense number 8. Foul occurred in the end zone. The ball will be placed at the 2-yard line in advance of the previous spot. Automatic 1st down.
They're backed up in their own end zone. Play fake brings the backers up. Watch the safety also in the middle of the field. Now he works to the middle. Look at the crease right between the safety and the corner. Playing zone. Safety gets lost off play action. Huge seam down the middle of that defense, and Howell finds it, and again shows his accuracy downfield.
1st and goal. Howell still got it, and they finally are able to wrap him up. That's the first sack for this Miami defense. The ends, Roche and Phillips making a play finally.
Yeah, exactly. Roche and Phillips we thought would have a big impact in this game, but a lot earlier. That time both of them getting into the backfield. Phillips initially forces him back, and Roche is able to clean it up.
These are guys, Phillips and Roche, looking to the draft, wanting to have big contract drive type of games. They did last week against Duke. They have not been able to overpower this Carolina offensive line so far. 2nd and goal. Williams trying to own the record for himself with a 22nd touchdown this season, is knocked down at the line.
There we go. There's some fight to Corey Couch, 23. Bouncing the ball. You'll see Bradley Jennings working as a linebacker, trying to chase it, get him to the outside, but watch at the top here. He gets off of the block, gets underneath. They pride themselves on these corners being involved in helping set the edge. Good play there.
3rd and goal. Howell flips it to Williams, and he almost gets the running back cut in half. It was very high. Gervin Hall hurt himself on the hit. It's 4th down.
Well, Gervin Hall read that because he saw that Daz Newsome was trying to block him 5, so he gets right by Newsome before he has a chance to play and gets into the backfield and hits Javonte Williams. A little bit of life there. After giving up the big play, they get backed up near their own goal line, and 2 or 3 straight plays there by the Canes defense.
Hall wanted to get up and celebrate the hit, and then he realized, ouch, that hurt. He's given away 25 pounds or so against the very solid Williams. But the Canes have at least forced another field goal attempt by Atkins, which so far today constitutes a massive victory for this defensive group.
But we were talking about what could spark them. You know, that's maybe the first time we've seen some energy from the Canes defense. And it's 31-3 with 3 minutes to go in the second quarter.
And it came after an 87-yard pass around that set up Carolina at 1st and goal. They did come up with a couple effort energy plays. But Atkins, a second chip shot, trying to make the lead 31. Total domination. Carolina with 415 yards of total offense. It's about 50 more than the Canes were allowing per game. Sunday NFL Countdown for the Steelers and Bills square off. Interview with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And this week on Monday Night Football, Steve Levy, Louis Riddick, Brian Greasy. The Browns having a terrific season against the Ravens. 9-3 Cleveland Browns.
How about that?
Chasing
Good
the
for
Steelers
Baker.
in the AFC North. Is Lamar back in that game? I haven't got the latest news. It would be a collision of 2 Heisman winners if he can go. Wow, this is a first half that will live in infamy in Miami history, because they came in as 3-point favorites in this game on a high. Just the one loss at Clemson. A whole lot to play for. You saw Ed Reed, a shot there, the Hall of Famer who's part of Manny Diaz's staff here, has a strong role as a role model for these Miami players. He has to be shocked. And let's go to Chris Felica.
Well, you had your fun there. The correct answer or question for today's Athletic Trivia question, of course, is Willis McGahee and Ken Dorsey 2002, and that probably explains why Miami has been down for as long as they have.
So you're saying it's been a while, a whole generation.
About 18 years since Miami had a player finish in the top 10. And the point being that this could be the first time with Derek Kane. If he gets into the top 10, they could have somebody finish that high.
January 5th is the day the Heisman will be handed out virtually.
If I'm a Miami Hurricane fan, you know, at this point, you're frustrated. Obviously, it's 34-3. You really want to see your team compete. You want to see them fight. You do not want to see them. There's so much football still to be played. Quit. Keep playing. Keep fighting.
Chaney slipped as he tried to cut. Gemmel was there. It'll be 3rd down.
You got to give on the other end of this. You got to give Matt Brown and his staff a ton of credit with the way their team is playing. I mean, they're playing with an edge about them in every phase of the game. Defense, the offensive line's playing well. How the receivers, the backs, the special teams, really well prepared.
And there's a 3rd down completion. Jordan escaped, couldn't keep his feet. It's a 1st down at the 45.
Well, I think what happened there, and Jordan almost makes a play if he was able to keep his feet, Chris, but Trey Morrison went for a knockout shot, lunged into him, and missed him.
King spied again by Gemmel. Both those linebackers, Gemmel and Surratt, have been strong.
Yep. Either one's blitzing and one's got their eyes on De'Ara King because he can run the ball, or the other one's going to blitz, and the other one has got his eyes. Somebody constantly aware of De'Ara King running.
Their communication is just superb. Jordan trying to make a play in space, and his shoestring tackle just able to drop him, but it's a first down.
Now this is where Rhett Lashley obviously really wants to crank tempo. They're going to bring Will Mowry into the game. Also, they get Mike Harley in. So that will allow Carolina, if they need to substitute. That's why umpire steps in there.
Minute and a half before halftime. Miami has the 3 timeouts remaining. Chaney could not break a tackle. Sure-handed grab there by Hyman Rucker.
A lot of these Carolina guys that are making plays are freshmen. I mean, Rucker's a true freshman. Conley's a true freshman. McMichael's a young player. Grimes a true freshman. Surratt, obviously a veteran. Gimmel's been around. He's a junior, but this is a young defense.
Sure is. You add to it another talented recruiting class. Signing day is Wednesday. You can see why they're excited. Harley breaks free. Slipped through a tackle, and the Canes got something going now.
And get the late flag. Looks like they... Was it a face mask or maybe pulling on the back of the jersey? I think maybe got the face mask.
It's Gemmel reaching his hand in there. Yep. Grabbed and twisted the head.
Personal foul, face mask, defense. Penalty is half the distance to the goal. First down.
Capital One halftime report. Kevin, Mark, and Booger coming up. Scores and highlights. They'll give you a peek of what's going on in West Point in the fog, the Army-Navy game. Alabama, another beat down the SEC foe today to sharpen up for that collision in Atlanta with Florida next Saturday. It's ACC champ game in the afternoon before the SEC at night. Both games with enormous playoff impact, to say the least. First down. Ball moves inside the 15, and King still got it. Took a peek, now takes off. This time they're not quite able to set the edge. He's knocked down inside the 10 by Surratt. See if they use a timeout here.
He is a tough runner. Tough runner. You know, you know it. He's going to keep it. He knows it. He's not sliding at all. I mean, he's running through people.
Built like a running back. He's probably about 5'9½".
Yep.
He's listed at 5'11", but a very solid 202. Carolina player losing the helmet led to the stoppage of the clock. I'll wind it now. Flipped over to Mallory, makes a one-handed grab. First down and goal. Surratt tackled him and saved the score.
Nice play by Will Mowry. Uses his length, 6'5" and 245 pounds. Shows the athletic ability to get out there and make that catch.
He's a terrific weapon in the red zone from the great Mallory football family. Harris knocked down. They do have, again, the timeouts to work with. Gemmel and Surratt again. Gemmel was just in awe. You know, they're playing fast here. I'll hold that thought. Anyway, Whistle and Carolina spends the time on defense. He was in awe of Surratt, Kirk. He said he comes from quarterback. Because he injured his hand here playing quarterback, he's learning the position with a club in his hands. He went through the entire preseason of 2019 trying to learn and tackle with a club. He said he could not believe how quickly he picked it up.
Yeah, and he's still a guy that was one of the top linebackers. They're going back to his quarterback days, a lefty. It's the game you talked about here against Miami.
Right here. They used to making the tackle and was eventually a pick six. So changes positions, has to try to learn and adapt. And he's a savvy guy, obviously playing quarterback. He knows a lot.
That's tonight, that fourth down play, give you an idea of his instincts. But he told us when Mac Brown came in with Phil Longo, he was frustrated, really depressed, didn't know what to do. He wanted to be a quarterback, but instead of transferring, decides to move over to backer where he could help the team. And needless to say, he has done that for the last 2 years.
And he and Sage both going to be drafted. They're both rated within the top 41 draft prospects on the board. Harris, a collision with the receiver, Wiggins, who came across in motion. That is symbolic of Miami's afternoon.
Yeah, that's
tackled by the receiver.
Yeah, that's just execution in the backfield. He's tackled, he said, by the receiver. Wiggins just mistimes the snap there with with De'Ara King handing it off, and Wiggins is 6'3", 195 pounds. I mean, I think Harris was more surprised than anybody. You're right. That is symbolic. They've practiced that 100 times. It's never happened in practice, and out here with the way things have gone, it happens.
So they spend the timeout. You've still got 2 more, 14 seconds to work with, a couple of plays, trying to at least dent this 31-point lead a bit before halftime. Be quite an interesting situation in the locker room. Do you stay calm if you're Diaz and his assistants? Do you try to light up this team and appeal to their pride?
I don't think you want to light them. I mean, you want to motivate them. You want to try to get them to buy in and believe, hey, you know, we've done this before. We've come back. Maybe not this kind of deficit, but I don't know if you want to light them up. That wouldn't be my tact at all.
King rolls and flips it, and there's a touchdown. Mike Harley, who's been the hot receiver, coming in with his 6th touchdown of the season, the first for the Canes this afternoon.
Well, they motioned him and created a little bit of hesitation with the, see right there, the end of the motion, and then you end up taking the outside receiver Pope and let him affect the coverage of Morrison, who's trying to stay with the speed of Harley. It's a great man beater inside the 5-yard line.
75-yard drive in 12 plays. And the lead is 24. Surratt brothers, Sage Surratt opted out this year for Wake Forest, but had done enough. Listed as the 7th wide receiver on the draft board. And check out this exclusive club of brothers who were taken in the first 3 rounds of the same NFL draft, way back to the Barber brothers at UVA. And the Surratt brothers will join that group. What an amazing experience. It's great for a family to have one son live out a dream and get drafted, but much less 2.
Yeah, no doubt about that, especially with what he's been through. Chaz, we just talked about how his time at Chapel Hill has been tough. You know, I love to see guys face some adversity and able to overcome that.
The Evans brothers remain the 2 who were drafted in the first round together. We've seen Quentin Williams also on that list. And Surratt could have perhaps had a chance to come out last year, but as you said, wanted to come back, get 1 more year, show the folks how good he could be. And you make a strong business decision sometimes by coming back. We talked about Travis Etienne a couple of weeks ago. You can elevate your status, go up a round or 2. It's a tremendous difference in salary. The way the NFL salaries are slotted in by the round.
Well, Surratt, we've talked about his career, but he's had a big night. The 4th down and 1, pulls the trigger early, gets into the backfield, keeps Miami short of the 1st down. We've seen a lot of this, just spying on 3rd down. The athletic De'Ara King in space is difficult sometimes to manage, but that's been what he's been focused on this week, that and using his eyes and instincts in coverage, which he's always been able to do. So his versatility, he can get into the backfield as a blitzer, but he can also sit and play in space. That's why the NFL will really like him, is he can do a lot of different things.
It's been both Howell and the tailbacks. Incredible first half for this North Carolina offense. They'll finish with 421 yards, 230 on the ground. All 4 touchdowns came on the ground, 2 by Carter and 2 by Williams. They will get the ball to begin the second half. This crucial ACC collision has been a mismatch as the underdogs from Chapel Hill lead it by 24. A stunning first 30 minutes here at Hard Rock Stadium. The Capital One halftime report is coming up right after these messages. Manny Diaz in Miami, a lot of work to do.
Makes a difference today for someone who is fighting for their tomorrow.
Welcome back to South Florida and ESPN College Football, presented by PlayStation 5. This presentation of the ACC on ESPN. North Carolina with a 24-point lead at halftime as we begin the third quarter. Tar Heels will have the football. That electric offense as advertised, throwing and running, dominating Miami from the get-go here, Kirk.
Yeah, it's really what you find out, what you're made out of if you're a Miami fan. And with North Carolina, it sounds crazy, up 34-10, but this is where Mac Brown went in there and probably gave that one of those speeches. It's 0-0, guys. Second half, we are not letting up. We're not letting them come back. They've had a history this year of fighting back. We're not going to give them a chance.
Both teams have had spirited fourth quarter rallies. You're wondering, how does Carolina not look like this more often? How are they a 3-loss team? Had 2 losses by 3 points. Got way behind Florida State and lost to a team that Miami beat 52-10. Lost a close game to Virginia and hung right with Notre Dame. One score game until the final few minutes.
But I think what they were able to do tonight, you see our Pacific Life game summary, they got off to a great start. You know, they were able to get their running game going. And when North Carolina gets their running game going, it just opens up every aspect of their big play potential, not just running the ball, but with Sam Howell in the passing game. And then the other side, it's been a physical defense, a defense that's played smart, really well prepared. They've mixed up their looks, made De'Ara King look flustered, which we've not seen much of this year other than the Clemson game.
Williams and Carter each with 2 touchdowns in the first half. This is Carter taking off. They pick up right where they left off. Again, they can't contain him. He gets the edge and scoots out near midfield. Each guy over 1,000 yards for the season tonight.
Well, when you have a defense that's going to flow and over pursue, you can get a back that can cut back and feel that. See how those linebackers at the second level, they're running as fast as they can to try to get to a spot, and Carter does a good job of sensing that.
You like his average before this carry? 18 yards per carry. He had gained 143 in his 8 carries.
That's what you dream about. I love how they just keep rotating him, too. Robert Gillespie, who played at Florida, has made himself a great career as an assistant coach. He's now working with Mac Brown as a running back coach. And Mac and Phil Longo, the offensive coordinators, say, I don't even know who's in there. It's not like we call certain plays for certain guys. Robert Gillespie just does a good job of rotating them, keeping them fresh.
You'd say, who's the hot hand? He said, what happens when both hands are hot? How do you decide who to play when each guy's ripping off you?
Like tonight and most of the year.
Newsome with the catch, another first down. It's been pretty easy for Sam Howell, this ferocious Miami pass rush. He's been kept pretty clean, and it was touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, field goal in their 6 first half possessions. More than 400 yards in the first half, and we're 450 now. They fake it to Williams, and Howell will launch downfield. Newsome broke the route off in traffic. 2 Hurricanes, Bolden and Ivy, were bracketing him.
Yeah, he tried to sneak Newsome down that right sideline. It's kind of like on a wheel route trying to get outside, but Ivy comes off of his man and gets involved to help Bolden out. They're hoping to get him isolated one-on-one with Bubba Bolden.
Safety appreciates that, doesn't he?
Yeah, Bubba Bolden's a good player, but that was a lot of space to cover one-on-one with a fleet-footed Newsome.
Second down, and pass thrown underneath to Antoine Green, Jr. from here in the state of Florida. Just his second catch this season.
They're going fast here.
Green will have a chance next year. And Newsome and you would think De'Ami Brown both move on. Brown a junior.
Reason they went as fast as they did was to prevent Miami from getting any kind of another defensive back. Keep them with 3 linebackers, can't get more speed on the field. Then they look over and end up adjusting and get the play call.
Need 5 on third down. And that time Williams, well, I was going to say hit behind the line. He bounced off a couple of tackles, but is going to be stopped after a short gain. And it'll be 4th down. Carter eventually got him down.
Yeah, Jalen Phillips, I thought he might lose the edge because he gets to the inside of Tucker, the right tackle. Watch him go inside, and I thought, uh-oh. Then he gets back outside, almost makes the tackle, but does enough to slow him down. And then the rest of the defense is able to help out. You cannot lose the edge. It's so hard. They run inside of you, and they can run outside of you, but you cannot lose the edge against Williams and Carter.
Up 24, Mac Brown and Phil Longo going for it on 4th and 4. They pump in the fake crowd noise. Howell escapes, tries to run for it, and takes a big hit right near the marker. Bolden delivered the shot, but it looks like it's first down yardage.
It was so used to De'Ara King on third down, making a run, trying to get to the sticks for a first down. But
Bolden down, by the way.
Yeah, he took a big hit. He went down low. But watch how he has a feel for where he needs to get on fourth down. You can almost see it. You look to his left. He's actually looking at the sticks. He knows he's close. He looks over. Am I there? Then he reaches across.
Timeout on the field. It is a first down. Well, ESPN of the Foundation's fight against cancer has not stopped even during these challenging times. If you're able, please support cancer research by visiting v.org/donate. Every penny of what you give goes to cancer research. You got to have a lot of things go right, make a lot of plays to come from 24 down. Miami's defense had a chance to make a play on that fourth down, but Howell able to escape, and now the Tar Heels can keep grinding.
That was a good play there by Salvera, but I'm with you, Chris. You're down big. You get an offense to fourth down. They decide to go for it. You got a chance to get off the field, and the quarterback makes a play, but they're that close to getting off the field and getting De'Ara King back out.
Bolden able to return to the field for this 2nd and 11 play. Did have a free play. Actually, you won't even need a free play. A penalty on Miami. Whistle before the snap.
Offense number 8.
It's a flinch.
5-yard penalty. Still second down.
Carter was flinching.
So offensive line.
But just lean forward a little bit. That's
just
enough.
A little. Just a little. I was with you. I thought he had a free play.
I think Sam did too. I don't think he noticed the back leaning forward. Saw the flag come out. Howell yet to throw a touchdown pass tonight. Chasing Darian Durant's record, 68 career touchdown passes at Carolina. Carter gets the edge, and then he never was tackled. I mean, Carter came up high, able to finally get him forced out. There's a flag. Things beginning to get a little too ragged for Mac Brown's liking, I'm sure, at this point with a lead.
Well, they executed so flawlessly.
Offense number 72, 10-yard penalty, second down.
You get Richards there, the sophomore, the left tackle, to try to help set the edge. But that first half, it was textbook. I think Maria talked with Mac Brown. It's like, I mean, what else could have gone right? It was that kind of half. So, yeah, to see them going backwards, not seeing that at all.
Handed off on 2nd and 26. Williams. Another huge chunk play. Almost got all the way to the first down mark. Where do they spot him?
Chris, but the point is,
it is a first down.
How quick does he get to the edge? Known as a power back. You go inside, good luck. He's going to get to the edge. Look, he's outrunning Frierson, the linebacker. I mean, he's got such quickness. Guy is 220 pounds. Phillips took an inside move, opened up the edge, in the blink of an eye, he's 10 yards downfield.
Each part of this tandem now with exactly 140 yards rushing. Williams trying to add to that total, but he'll be trapped for a short loss. And now a late flag comes in the pit.
Carolina again.
Holding, offense number 68, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Center Anderson, and Mac, you can just tell, he's been around coaching 32 years as a head coach, 31 as a head coach, 42 overall. He's seen teams, with huge leads,
just lose their
throttle back,
lose the edge a little bit. That's what he's trying to. I think that's what he was trying to make sure he established at halftime. And Now here they are with the ball in the first possession. They're in plus territory, chance to put big points on the board. He's got that one-on-one matchup at the top that's been lethal most of tonight.
You said it's Carter. This has been lethal too. Number 8 just running through big creases, banging. Doesn't matter how many penalties they have. They just gain it right back on the ground. Back them up. Convert.
Yeah, they get the ball to the outside, but watch the safeties and linebackers. Watch them try to get off blocks. They're just kind of stepping out of the way. I mean, Walston, the tight end, didn't even have to make a block. The safeties and backers are just kind of olaying and getting out of the way, giving Carter plenty of room to run.
Banging down inside the 5. 300-yard rushing day and counting for Carolina, with a long way to go.
You know, you draw plays up all week, offensively and defensively, and you try to make sense as a coach what might work. And then you get into the game, and there's one thing you can never take into account is the energy level that your team's going to play with, or lack of energy that your team's going to play with. And we've seen a team in white tonight playing with a ton of energy, and the Canes just have not been able to meet that energy. So forget the plays. It's about effort and execution and want.
Williams dives to the 2. Again, in a game that was evenly matched coming in, with Miami having a tremendous amount to play for.
Oh yeah, I mean they're going to secure a New Year's 6 bowl bid and go to the Orange Bowl if they win this game. And how about Carolina? They've had some penalties that get them behind the sticks, and they've been able to overcome that and just keep going forward, keep executing.
Carter back in the game, looking for his 3rd score on 2nd and goal. Howell and a keeper, and stretching for the goal line. Touchdown. He did break the plane, they say, with the football. And a 5th rushing touchdown as the quarterback joins the party. Another check here.
Yeah, Chris, I think what you said is accurate. I think the stretch out right there to break the plane, the nose of the ball, and they'll take a peek at that to see if the nose actually did get across. His own hand is almost preventing the ball from getting there.
On the field was a touchdown.
Progressive pylon cam.
Review.
Let's see, Chris, if he extends.
Close.
Really close.
Just has to break the front of that white line by a centimeter, the nose of that football.
Boy, like I said, his hand is there. I don't know if the ball is. Both his hands got on the tip of the ball. And I think his hands broke the plane, Bill, but I don't know if the ball actually made it.
Do you have indisputable video evidence? It's going to be the key to overturn this call. His hand could be blocking the ball. So I don't think you have indisputable evidence, so you got to go with the call on the
there you go, Billy. Look at that. You see that?
The ball is just kind of on the fringe of losing control of the football as he's headed to the ground there, but I think Bill's point's a great one. Did you see enough to take the touchdown off the board? Let's hope it isn't a massive review here.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
So enough, or not enough, I should say, to turn it over. And the Tar Heels now make it 5 touchdowns and 2 field goals on their 7 possessions today. Another 75-yard drive. They did in 13 plays, and they also cheat up half of the 3rd quarter in doing it.
Well, Phil Longo. Last time you and I saw him, and a couple weeks ago, day after Thanksgiving against Notre Dame, things didn't go that well. We showed at one point he and Sam Howell talking after another frustrating series. It's a totally different story tonight. They are in sync, feeling good, and putting points up.
You ask him, you remember that, the conversation on the icebox. We sat in the icebox.
And then he got really emotional, too.
Yeah, he did. Different emotions this afternoon. 40-110. Some of the biggest moments of the day brought to you by Samsung QLED TV. Focus on the tailback tandem from North Carolina, who have both been brilliant. Williams just galloping into the end zone. That tied the single-season touchdown record that great Don McCauley shared. Carter's reached the end zone a couple times. Not a huge fan of mocking the other team's logo. I don't know if you love the horns down when they do that in the Big 12. I don't know if you need to do that.
I'm not
kicking their tail on the field, but you can see Both guys just monster, well over 1,000 yards on the season.
313 on the ground's not a bad night. 2.5 quarters into the ball game.
Nope, not on less than 30 carries. It's over 10 a carry. Doing the math at home. And Maria, what do you have for us down there?
Well, Chris, that last defensive series for Miami goes against everything Manny Diaz told his team in the locker room. He told them that their energy will be a direct correlation to their belief, and they can prove that on the field with every single play. He also wanted them to believe in their teammates, believe that they could win every single play. Now, one thing that he's making sure that he does is saying that they have to have the energy to finish plays, and he told them that they've been down 20 before when he was the defensive coordinator against Florida State back in 2018. That was the one example he could give them to try to bring hope to this game.
Coach has got to try. Now the deficit's 31. King immediately under pressure, flips it off in the flat. And that's Gemmel, who's had a terrific afternoon wrestling Harris down for a loss.
You know, I think a mark of a well-coached team is in a situation like this when you're up 41-10 and still another quarter and a half to go, there isn't any let up at all. I mean, there isn't any let up at all from this defense. Jay Bateman brought them in, made him feel challenged against De'Ara King and his speed, and they played with that attitude the entire game.
It's Jordan down the seam. He escapes, and he's going to score. Revin Jordan, a touchdown of 76 yards. That's one for his highlight reel on an otherwise tough day for the Hurricanes.
Well, give Jordan credit here. He gets matched up one-on-one with Don Chapman, who's given him a lot of room to work. Little outside move he bites on. And then De'Ara King, who's showing Sam Howell that he has that same accuracy downfield when he has time to throw, and he's got a receiver that is able to get separation, puts it right on the money for a nice play for the Canes.
So the chart of Diaz apparently says, you know, when you're down 25, you go for two.
I'll tell you, Jordan is a tough matchup. A tight end who's in this offense with Will Mallory coming on has become more of an H-back in the slot, detached. Tough matchup for safeties.
And he's caught 5 touchdowns now on the season. He's that kind of player that is
timeout. North Carolina. First charge timeout.
Coveted on Sundays these days. Those kind of hybrid guys,
yeah.
Tight end body, but receiver, route running skills, ball skills.
Yeah, because I mean, you see that, you're right, on Sundays all the time. You put a backer on him because of his size, and he's able to run away from him. And sometimes you put a smaller safety, and it's a mismatch because of the physicality. That time he just ran away. Great stem to set that route up by set up Don Chapman to turn away from it.
Now, selection show will be a week from tomorrow after the championship games are settled in the conferences at noon Eastern time. The Rose Bowl game and the All-State Sugar Bowl are the semifinals on New Year's Day. And Bill Hancock, executive director of the CFP, kind of restating what he said all year, looking forward to the semifinals and the championship game, which of course is right here in Miami. And there seems to be, you know, some confusion. There's been so much different and unorthodox about this troubled college football season. The fact that we're nearing the finish line is a victory in many respects, but the playoff will go on.
Yes, sir.
As planned.
Yep.
And I think the teams that get in it will be wise to create a little mini bubble if they can. Keep those guys safe for the 11 days between the selection and the semifinals. 2-point play. King has time, zips it on a dime, and it's good. D. Wiggins with the grab, and Miami cuts into the lead, 41-18 now. That's a quick 75-yard drive in 2 plays in 36 seconds. Canes showing some fight. And Vegas, UFC 256, the main event. Flyweight championship bout. Davison Figueiredo, the champ, defends the belt against Brandon Moreno, who's the #1 ranked contender. The prelims are at 8 on ESPN2, and Deportes, the main card, pay-per-view at 10 o'clock Eastern. Week from tonight, we'll be in Charlotte, the ACC championship, and a lot more on the line for the rematch, the Tigers and the Fighting Irish. We'll talk more about that in the second half as Heels go back to work from the 25. Many championships have been won here in Miami. A couple of them here at Hard Rock Stadium. Kirk, this was epic, right? Tim Tebow with the jump pass. It was an incredible drive. Gator defense smothered Sam Bradford. Urban Meyer wins the title, and then Eddie Lacy and the Tide just put a foot in Notre Dame.
Yeah, that game reminded me a little bit of this one. That one was over after the first or second series. Alabama just much better than Notre Dame that night.
Tide won 3 out of 4. That was the 2012 season. Selection show, we talked about it a week from tomorrow. Pasadena in New Orleans on January 1. Oh boy, is he not exhausted yet? How does he still have energy ripping up huge gains?
Just
Williams for about 15 more.
Keep running that counter play, keep having a chance to either cut it underneath or bounce it. This time they get around Sam Brooks. Really good blocking. You know, this offensive line doing a really good job. Brian Anderson out, and right now Kieran Johnson in, but gets up to that backer and plenty of room to run.
Williams bounces it again. Adds to his total. He's just banging into people, still going. He's just having fun tonight. He's still running. Then dragged down inside the 20. Relentless. He didn't care what the score is. He's just having the time of his life out there.
This defense, everybody knifes in, and again, he's able to bounce out, and then he gets, look at the balance. Look at the contact balance and the determination by Javonte Williams against his defense.
Maury Carter is a captain who's used to delivering big hits. He prides himself on that. He has now been trucked by each Carolina running back here this afternoon.
Well, they're trying to make the big hit, but these backs are too talented and too physical. You can't just hit them. You've got to wrap them up. You're going to get embarrassed again.
Carter's back in the game now. They feed him, and he's wrestled down by Phillips. When's the last time you saw 2 running backs each have 200 plus in a game? Because it's getting close here. Williams now has 200, and Carter is closing in on it.
What was the last time you saw 2 backs with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter averaging 13 yards a carry each guy?
But 2 200-yard rushers,
yeah,
that hadn't happened a whole lot in the history of the sport.
I mean, maybe
I want to know the last time
off the top, maybe Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, 2 running backs to do it. That's even harder.
But they just keep running that counter play. Well, why not? They run it left, they run it right. That time Miami got some penetration. Jalen Phillips puts his right shoulder into that pulling guard and is able to blow it up.
That one negative play knocked him back to 169, but 31 away from joining Williams' double century mark this afternoon, each with a pair of touchdowns. Williams back in the game now. Will they run it again on 3rd and 15? Gaines showing pressure.
Up top.
Howell trying to look for the open man, but he short hopped the ball to De'Ami Brown. It's 4th down.
When they showed that safety blitz, he had one-on-one. Look at DJ Ivey expecting the fade behind him, and that's why they came back. If he would have had a step on him, then he would have kept running down the sideline. But with the defensive back aborting and dropping out so quickly, he just shut it down and just unable to put it on the same, being on the same page with Sam Howell.
Atkins trying to make it 3 for 3. He was all FCS at Furman last year. Yeah, he hooked it. Never really gave it a chance. Kind of a little bit sarcastic. Jets a first empty possession for Carolina today.
So they get a touchdown on a quick score, quick drive, and then they get off the field. Don't give up a score, miss field goal.
Crowd goes wild.
Crowd's into it.
Man, he's still believing.
Absolutely.
19 minutes to play. That's what made that first touchdown drive for Carolina so crucial. They took up exactly half of the third quarter in stretching the lead. So Miami, which scored in 36 seconds last possession in 2 plays, tries to create another very quick score. Harley gets the edge, lowers his shoulder, and picks up 9. There is a little juice now finally in Miami.
Yeah, and Jay Bateman, the defense coordinator for North Carolina, the last thing he wants to do, obviously, with this big lead in the second half, is give up those quick scores like they did to Brevin Jordan. So they're going to back everything out. And De'Ara King's going to try to get the ball in space underneath.
Looking for a big play on 2nd and 1. downfield and wrestle for the football. It's intercepted. It was a fight for the football, and Tony Grimes, who should be a high school senior, makes the pick, and he is mobbed by his teammates. He's a terrific story and a future great here.
Yeah, you're looking at a guy who'll be probably the top defensive back corner in a couple years. Again, you said a senior in high school. He's beaten. Ball is behind, but he doesn't give up on it, Chris. The ball's in there, and then he fights a back to get the ball. Watch how the ball's in there, and then how he tries to reach in and steal it before Wiggins can go down. But they're going to look at pass interference. There's some confusion right now in the field. No, it is North Carolina ball.
Carolina ball. As you said, that's a kid who comes out because his high school wasn't playing football this year, just decides to join the Tar Heels, and he's wrestled the ball away from a junior, a veteran receiver.
That was a great play because, like I said, he was beaten, does a good job of not giving up on the play and just taking it away from Wiggins there at the end.
Why not put both tailbacks in the game? Williams is a lead blocker for Carter, banged down after 3 yards. Another look at the pick.
Yeah, let's take a look again at this play. You're going to see a lot of this from Grimes in the future. He's beaten, and I just love to see a defensive back that doesn't give up on the play. I mean, they're going down, and he takes it away. You can see Wiggins being consulted there by Mark Pope, the other receiver.
As you said, I mean, there's nobody else like him in the sport. He's supposed to be in high school, out here playing. He was picked on, he said, by Notre Dame. They found a rhythm of going against him in the second half, but the fact that he was out there trying to cover McKinley and those big guys is a testament to his confidence. He's not short on that. Carter in the seam, in the clear, foot race. Can they get him? Yeah, they're going to finally catch him at the 15, but now Carter joins Javonte Williams, over 200 yards rushing.
Watch the center's block here that opens it up. Nice job by Anderson, just pushing Silvera. And then again, these safeties had a rough night coming in out of control in run support. How many times have we seen a safety from Miami running up out of control, and whether it's Carter or Williams shakes them? That's a tough thing to do. You got to be under control when you come up against backs that are running downhill towards you.
Carter on senior day, Kirk, it's a living nightmare for him out there. Not much can go worse than it has for him tonight. Run over a couple of times. Angles, as you talked about. That's Williams adding to his total.
You know, I think this Miami team, they're building with Manny Diaz. The night we were at Death Valley watching Clemson play them, the two areas that I thought they got exposed were wide receiver and linebacker on both sides of the ball. And as you watch tonight, the linebacker position has not helped them out, and I think because of that, these backs are free running into the secondary, and where it's tough to make tackles against them.
At times, McLeod, one of the linebackers, able to stop Williams for no gain. Carolina just coming out, challenging Miami physically right from the first series. The first play, when they gained 12 yards in the very first play, I saw you go, uh-oh. That's a very bad sign for this Miami defense.
Yeah, this running game from Carolina and how physical and how explosive it can be. If it makes the backers and safeties have to lock in on that, you get some one-on-one. But it's been really all about the running game.
Yeah, in 3rd and 9, they just hand it off, and they're going to make it with Carter banging down 1st and goal. You forget the traditional calls on 3rd down. Just hand the ball off, and they're
and time after time they're able to get the edge of this defense. Just followed Richards, the left tackle that time. He is able to squeeze Harvey, the defensive end, to the inside, and there's just no one there. I mean, by the time Bolden is there to try to help out and make a tackle as a safety, he's 8 to 9 yards downfield. Just nobody there from the backers.
1st and goal. Williams looking for that hat trick. And he'll be stopped at the 1. And that'll be the final play of the third quarter. Each team with a touchdown, but Miami able to cut into the lead only by a single point. Final quarter at Hard Rock coming up. Back after this message and a word from your local ABC station. Fourth quarter begins here in Miami with the Heels a yard away from adding to this lopsided lead. It's been another 75-yard march. It's pushed their total offense to over 650 today. Two tight ends. Williams, he's going to be stopped. So the Canes make a play as Frierson, Jason Blissett, a backup tackle combining. It's third down.
There's not as much space to cover when they get down inside that 2 or 3 yard line. So it's a lot easier to try to box them in than when you have to defend them in the middle of the field and they have all that room to work with. They've not done a good job of eliminating the space against the backs, but down here they're having a much better chance of doing that.
Third down now. Of course, the longer Carolina takes to score, as long as they score, the more clock they're able to chew on. Howell under center. Toss sweep. Reverse. Groves flip it into the quarterback. Trickery. And Mac Brown pouring it on Manny Diaz and Miami. Howell hasn't thrown for one. He's run for one and now caught one.
This is Mac's version of Philly special, right?
Yeah.
Get the ball thrown out to the quarterback. Right here, watch him. Little pitch. Nobody sees that he's sneaking out. And how about the throw? Lefty against his body.
Under pressure.
Under pressure, out in front, and the athlete, the quarterback. But that is a big-time throw by Groves.
He kind of bobbled it almost. Right?
He did.
You're right.
He did. He held on to it. Showed that athletic ability. But I love that throw from the lefty.
Todd Groves, the receiver, with Phillips kind of moving in on him, makes a pretty throw. Leads back to 30. A little over 4 weeks from now, right here, the CFP National Championship Trophy, presented by Dr. Pepper, will be awarded after the semifinals in Pasadena and Atlanta. Or, excuse me, that's in New Orleans. Alabama be the favorite for you. They crushed Arkansas. Defense beginning to play better and better. Offense has been unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, we keep saying the defense is obviously playing better, but next week, boy, they're going to get a nice test against the Gators and that offense, Kyle Trask and company.
Harley. And he's going to be ushered out by the kicker. Crunch time brought to you by Sheez-It.
Well, it's been the backs. It's been the story of the game. First play of the game was a good run right there by Carter's, kind of set the tone to tell you what was ahead of him. Both these backs over 200 yards. And I tell you, Javonte Williams is so impressive. He's known for that, running through tackles, but he's shown an ability to explode. And Carter, that's his game. But you throw these two guys, one of them 17 carries, the other one 19. That's how it's been all year, really throughout the last 2 years. You look at the numbers at the end of a game into the season, and it's very comparable.
King steps up and fires. Catch made by Pope for a short gain. Last time two backs from Power 5 school each had 200 yards. Monty Ball and James, I remember they ran over Nebraska. It was the Big Ten championship game before the current format.
I do
2012.
I do remember
each
that.
had more than 200, but that's how long it's been since two Power 5 running backs have each had 2 bills in a game. Batted down at the line and falls to the carpet. Surratt, another play.
As you say that, I remember Gordon going off. I forgot that Monte Ball also had 200 yards that game. Let's see. Let's watch the linebackers here.
I said White. I'm sorry. Melvin Gordon. You're right.
In real time. One's up here. One's right here. See, blitz. Other one drops. That time Miami's able to execute.
Now Jordan escapes again after making a catch and darts down to the 40.
That was kind of strange. Watch North Carolina's safety in the middle, Morrison. He's got a chance to make a tie. He's a great player. He just kind of is like, you got him. Nope, I got him. No, nobody has him.
Harris bursts up the middle. That's by far the biggest running play for a back by Miami today. First down to the 25. Kings run for 53, Kirk, but now all the Miami other runners, a total of 23. And that's by far the biggest play they've had. No factor today. King delivers far side. Harley able to make the catch. He got the foot down.
That is a great throw to squeeze that in there by De'Ara King. Shows his arm strength there to get that ball between a safety and a corner.
Catch, inbounds, first down.
So Miami trying to jack the tempo here. Let's make sure he got a foot in.
Catch.
Yep.
Down.
Left foot down first.
Yep.
Harris picks his way and falls into the end zone. So Miami scores for a second time in the second half. Cuts the lead to 24.
Well, this side of the ball is continuing to compete. Left side of that offensive line does just enough. Picks up Surratt, who's been leaking and getting into the backfield, but nice job of executing there and getting Harris into the end zone.
Miami again will go for 2. Trying to cut it to a 22-point game. King on the slant, and it's caught by Mallory. So they've executed the 2-point conversions well today. And it's a 22-point game, 12:42 to go here.
College football on ABC is presented by PlayStation 5. Play has no limits. And in part by Pacific Life, more than 150 years strong. Trust in your tomorrow.
Not how the Hurricanes envisioned senior day. Of course, De'Ara King is a senior, but this year does not count in eligibility for anybody. So he intimated on social media this week that he might not be finished at Miami. He might consider coming back next year, which is an interesting topic. You just automatically assume that given a chance, you come out, but it might actually be an interesting business choice for him as the Canes line up for an apparent onside kick here, where Gallus now gets the big hop, and it's right into the hands of Brown. And we check in with Kevin Nagandi. Wow, what an escape. Another big game for them next week. You know, you talk about the business decision, and it's a very crowded quarterback class. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, the presumed top pick. Justin Fields, Kyle Trask, Zach Wilson's in that mix too. So one reason why you might choose to return, play one more year at quarterback, is that you try to get some separation from those guys. Oh my. Carter again, oh my goodness, spinning, twisting, adding to his total, finally banged out inside the 10. These guys are just indefatigable. So here's how it looks. Todd McShay's top-ranked quarterbacks, Mac Jones in the mix too. Don't forget Trey Lance, the Bison. So if you're De'Ara King, you're not quite 5'10". You put 2 seasons together. One at Houston, of course, the only redshirt year in 19, and then one here, Kirk. Brett Lashley was making a case, you know, if you come back and you show them what you can do, that it might actually be a smart choice. Of course, he's going to say that, but De'Ara kind of opened the door to that. So let's talk more about that as they take a look at a Canes injured player, Jonathan Ford. Take it back up, first and goal for the Heels. Only empty possession today was that missed field goal in the third quarter. Points on every other drive. Usually touchdowns. Trying to get it up over half 100. Had the Philly special last time down here. What is Mac Brown and Phil Longo got cooked up here to drive the stake in?
Well, they're definitely trying to send a message, not just to Miami, but to the nation.
To recruits. They don't really recruit against each other, but they figured a battle for recruiting supremacy in this division. Carter running just as hard up huge in the fourth as he did in the very first play. McLeod tackled him.
I'm still just in awe of of this Carolina running game and what they've done today against Miami. I think I'm just as much in awe of what Carolina's done as what Miami has not been able to do with making adjustments. And Blake Baker's an outstanding defensive coordinator. Manny, obviously, a defensive background. But the space that these backs have had to run in, it's been kind of the same play. A lot of counters, a lot of misdirection, getting a hat on a hat.
Now looking to throw for the touchdown, batted in the air. He was deflected up by Isaiah Dunson.
You know, real quick, I want to mention Stacy Searles, who's a coach who's been around. He played at Auburn. He was around the SEC for a long time as an O-line coach. Actually was here with Manny Diaz as an offensive line coach and left to go to Chapel Hill and work with Mac Brown. So he's familiar with this program here. You know, we've been talking so much about Manny and Mac and their familiarity. You got to think Stacy Searles has got a little bit of an extra step to him with some energy, and he's got his line playing great.
And they're all back next year, this offensive line. Howell, play fake, flips it in the flat. Catch made by Morales, and the tight end stretches for a touchdown. And that's Howell's first touchdown pass. Scores as a runner, receiver, and finally in the normal way as a passer.
But Sam Howell gets pressured. Watch his arm angle change. He gets back underneath, and then he's got almost a sidearm, just flips it out there like a shortstop. We see this all over the place. Quarterbacks nowadays work on this. He gets across the goal line there. The progressive pylon cam showing you that. Stacy Searles fired up, but I love to see that. That's drill work that these quarterbacks, Sam Howell and others, do, who have to throw where you get out of the pocket and you got to make a throw where your arm angle comes down, and he just sidearmed that out there and flipped it to the tight end.
You get to watch Patrick Mahomes have fun with that on Sundays, right? He's made that famous, that touchdowns from all arm angles and all varieties as the Heels continue to pour it on. 55-26. Pacific Life game summary. Look at the quarterback comparison. De'Ara King's been harassed, rattled early, forced to play from behind, lacking his usual clarity and decision making. And then you got the efficiency of Sam Howell with a huge running game to lean on.
Yeah, and really, I mean, 18 attempts. They've been running the football, but you can see that he's put this offense in a spot where they've still had a big night without having to rely on him in the passing game.
Also joins the club of guys who have caught a touchdown pass, run for a touchdown, and thrown for a touchdown. And that touchdown catch by Morales, the first of his career, was the 18th career touchdown pass for Sam Howell, who's the king of the fourth quarter. It's a nice looking animation to express the fact that he's never thrown a pick in his 2 seasons now in the fourth quarter, and make it 18 touchdowns. Tristan Gebbia of Oregon State is the other player to throw for one, run for one, and catch one this year. King zips it high. Just to follow up, Kirk, on the possibility that King, and there's one more game to play. It won't be the bowl game they hope for. Possibly deciding to come back for one more season.
Well, I actually had a conversation with him this week about that one-on-one, and he's just kind of picking my brain and about players that we've watched over the years, and I'm not trying to steer him one way or the other, but I can tell you that he's thinking about it. I mean, it's something that it's not a foregone conclusion that he'll leave Miami and enter the NFL.
Pass batted down. It shows there an example, the fact that he's not a very tall guy. You're not going to gain any height in the offseason. He believes in his chances, though, of playing quarterback on Sunday as opposed to being shifted to a different position.
Of course he does. And I think with the way the NFL game continues to evolve and change, in the old days, it was the college game that was trying to figure out how the NFL was doing it. Now you see a lot of times the NFL offensively is changing and becoming more and more like what you see on Saturdays.
King flips it to the sidelines. Jordan works his way back. It's incomplete. How do you compare him to a guy like Kyler Murray, of course, an electric, speedy runner? Throws it very well too.
I was going to say
#1 pick.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's arm talent, I think, is maybe grossly underrated. When he was coming out, because he was so electric in space. I know his hero, the guy that he watches and admires a lot, is Russell Wilson. But I'm not trying to figure out how a guy at 5'9.5", 5'10" is going to transfer up into the NFL. Who knows? That's something he'll have to think about. I just think the guy has talent. I think he's got heart. I think he's got the intangibles that make him special. But it'd be interesting to see how he comes to a decision on what to do. Miami opens next year with Alabama in Atlanta as well.
Something to think about. I'm not sure if that's an enticement to come back or make another decision. The rankings brought to you by AT&T 5G. It was 3 apiece in Fayetteville. And the Tide scored 7 touchdowns, the only team in the top 5 to play today. Notre Dame and Clemson, we asked Mack Brown, what do you think? His team hung with the Irish, and I didn't get the feeling Mack would be surprised if the Irish made it 2 in a row over Clemson. It's a great talking point. We're going to be privileged to bring that one to you next Saturday night from Charlotte. Hard to beat a great team twice in a season. And of course, Clemson getting back key defensive players, we think. I guess Skalski's availability, we'll have to wait and see. Double overtime game. Williams busting free. He had a big night. Last couple touchdowns. ETN just fumbles the ball. And Usu Koromoa with a scoop and score. And there it is. The winner. Trevor Lawrence comes back, of course, along with those 3 key defenders. The Irish able to run for 208 in that game.
Look at Uiagalelei, 439 yards. So, I mean, Trevor Lawrence's leadership and his presence come back. But, Uiagalelei had a pretty good night, digging themselves back into that football game and getting it into overtime. In fact, Notre Dame needed that last drive in regulation to get it into overtime.
Williams yet again breaking tackles. He's broken tackles and broken the will of this defense, but he still looks pretty fresh.
That counterplay might be coming again. I mean, that's pretty much all they've run all night.
How cool. You got the all-time victory leaders at quarterback for each school. Book with 30 of them. Lawrence with 33. Book was brilliant and clutch in that final drive, regulation, the scramble.
I think Ian Book
pass down the seam.
Yeah. Talking to him this week, there's so much talk about, well, Clemson didn't have Trevor Lawrence. They didn't have Tyler Davis. They didn't have James Skalski, the leader in the middle. They didn't have Mike Jones. They had a couple other starters get hurt in game. Now they're going to be fully healthy, and it's very true. But I know it's catching the attention of the Notre Dame team as they want to try to prove that, hey, we won the game and we're ready to take them, in round 2.
Clemson will arrive with perhaps a little more pressure. It's much to win for them to keep alive their streak, going for a 6th consecutive ACC championship and playoff appearance. Notre Dame will be hearing from some people, maybe some people on the game day set in Charlotte next Saturday morning, that they don't need to win to get to the playoff, and that's always a dangerous setup going in. Just subconsciously, obviously they're going to bring the effort. They want to win the championship. They want to be perfect. You don't know. It's a interesting dynamic.
I think one of the great strengths of this Notre Dame team is they've used the disrespect and the eye roll about Notre Dame and people feeling they're overrated as a motivator, and they're not really taking a lot of pats on the back. They're a very, very focused group. Now, at the end of the day, Clemson might be better. We'll see in Charlotte next week. I mean, Clemson has a very talented team every year with Dabo Swinney, but I'm just looking forward to those 2 teams colliding and the winner advancing into the playoff, and we'll see what happens to the loser.
Now, the Canes thought they had a good defense coming into this game. What does it say about Notre Dame's defense? That after those first 2 drives by the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill, only allowed 3 points, and they sacked 6 times against Howell.
I don't think, I've been doing this 25 years. I don't know if I've ever done a game with 518 yards rushing.
You have now.
Yeah.
And adding to the total, I mean Carter's trying to get to 300 yards.
I think we all that day when we watched Notre Dame come up with a plan, Clark Lee decided that instead of sitting back, he decided to try to take away those quick slants, bringing Kyle Hamilton down and blitzing the backers. And there was nowhere. North Carolina lost the line of scrimmage against Notre Dame. That was the obvious thing in the second half. And it's been a complete 180, complete opposite tonight. The offensive line deserves a lot of credit because they're sustaining blocks, putting everybody up front in a position to win, and giving these backs so much room to work with.
Carter, short gain. We're going to take the chance to thank two guys who've done a tremendous job this year, really on behalf of all of our crew, representing a group of folks who've worked under very trying circumstances this season, as a lot of folks have. The sports information directors. You get two terrific ones from these schools. Jeremy Sharp of the Tar Heels, Cameron Gorby and Carter Toole also for Miami. But these folks have been working, from home, isolated from the coaches and the players they're trying to help promote. SIDs all around the country, working hard and putting up with a lot, as so many people have in 2020. But those two young guys are two of the best, and we really thank them for their help.
Yeah. It's great to work with folks all over the country every week. But these two in North Carolina and Miami, Jeremy and Cam, are, like you said, relentless, tireless workers, and we appreciate their efforts.
Relentless and tireless is Michael Carter. He's just he's over. That's it. That puts him at 301 on his 23 carries, averaging 13 per carry, and he's still out there. We talked about the last time two Power 5 backs had gone over 200. Now you got a 300-yard rusher.
Most rushing yards by teammates in FBS history.
When you showed up here in the nick of time, did you think you'd see NCAA rushing history made against this Miami defense today?
No, not at all. Completely worth that helicopter ride over here.
How did you do with your picks while on the helicopter? You might have discovered something, because on dry land they haven't been as good.
No, I'm not good on the upset specials. What are they? The Super Dogs?
Super Dog.
Yeah, that's not my thing this year at all.
You have Virginia in the Super Dog, right?
Yeah.
Tonight against the Hokies.
Did they win today?
That's a night game.
Oh, okay.
But maybe your new thing is to pick in a helicopter, picked airborne. WBO featherweight champ Shakur Stevenson. He's moving up to the junior lightweight division. Take on Tokakan Clary. Main event for Top Rank Boxing. Undercards at 7:30 on ESPN Plus. Main event at 10 o'clock on ESPN and Deportes and the app. Olympic silver medalist is Stevenson, 2016.
You've spent a lot of time at West Point, right? Have you?
Well, sometime, not as much as I'd like to, but
yeah.
It's a special place.
Really is. Really is. I had a chance to have a tour yesterday, and just so impressed with the history and the discipline, respect, the grit. I mean, they're just you get around the folks at West Point, and they are buttoned up.
How about the story by Tom Rinaldi today about Captain Jack Galooly, Navy player, 100 years old, who tackled Glenn Davis in that 43 Army-Navy game at West Point. I talked to Tom about that feature, and he said, would you like to have the audio file of Captain Jack's interview? I said, would you please email it to me? I just want to have that for posterity. What an amazing gentleman.
100 years old and so sharp.
Razor sharp.
Yeah, referencing things back and thinking about the tackle that he had, and he talked about, the play itself.
Unbelievable military career, too. He survived a kamikaze hit while on deck of a boat, then went and became a pilot in the Navy. Williams lowers the shoulder. It's just a slow bleed out, isn't it? As the Tar Heels just keep grinding away down near the goal line. Another one of those 70-plus yard drives.
Well, I think we got to recognize Mac Brown in this program in his second year. They had some close losses a year ago. Team was just learning how to win games, and they've had some games even this year that they're still in that process of growing and developing. But so much fun to see Mac Brown, after working with us at ESPN for 5 years, back coaching, and he's got to be proud of this team and the way they put an exclamation point on things tonight here in Miami.
69 years young in August was Mac, same age as Saban. Williams bounces it and then just outraces the defense to the pylon for his third touchdown. And the Tar Heels up over 60 this afternoon. And Williams with 236 continues to add to that record. Is he too exhausted to throw the hands up in the air? Finally, he may have worn out on this.
No, I don't think he. I don't think he is at all. 10 yards a carry, 236 yards. It's a night you dream about for both these backs.
I talked to Carter. I said, so you guys are going to be in each other's weddings. You're going to be sitting next to each other in your rocking chairs years and years from now, talking about your career. I said, absolutely. Michael and Javonte brothers for life, and they'll have a day here that they'll be talking about in the rocking chair. And I'll tell you what, North Carolina fans, they'll be talking about this game for a long, long time. This is a milestone win. They haven't beaten a top 10 team since Miami in 04. They didn't just beat them, they thrashed them. And Williams with that touchdown now owns the Carolina single season touchdown record all by himself over the Hall of Famer Don McCauley.
Well, a great season for him, but again, this team, if there's ever a question about, you got Notre Dame and Clemson and Charlotte, and then there was a question about, well, who's that next team? You know, well, it's Miami. Miami with that one loss, and Carolina has showed tonight that they deserve to be part of the class of the ACC.
And they'll be fans of Clemson. I think they'd like to see both the Tigers and the Fighting Irish go into the playoff, which many feel would happen if Clemson wins that game, especially if it's a very competitive game. That means that Carolina would presumably be the highest ranked ACC team not to be in the CFP. You got to feel they got to be ranked well ahead of Miami after this thing.
Oh, yeah.
So that would put them in a position to get back down here in 3 weeks. You know how long it's been since Carolina's been in a bowl game as big as the Orange Bowl?
I love the Max answer.
Hardly to rush it out. Charlie Choo Choo Justice was the star of the Carolina teams in the late 40s. So this is confirmation that the highest ranked ACC team not in the CFP against the highest ranked non-champion SEC or Big Ten not on the CFP. So it could be Florida.
Don't you think, despite the losses, the way they played tonight, if Clemson beats Notre Dame, you potentially have both those teams going. I don't know how you can't put Carolina in there.
Well, I think they'd be a great position as the highest ranked ACC team not to be in the playoff. Tyler Van Dyke, the true freshman from Glastonbury, very different style of quarterback from De'Ara King, and N'Kosi Perry's in the game. Now they like him though. He's available, hasn't been available some games this year. Played very briefly. Chance for a couple of snaps. And Van Dyke delivers, and it's incomplete, just a little bit behind Mallory, but a catch that he would normally make.
I think this secondary next year is going to be one of the tops you'll see in the ACC. Everybody back. Kyler McMichael, Tony Grimes, of course. You got a player down, and this young man right here, Conley, has had a great night. He's only a true freshman. I mean, they're Trey Morrison's back, Don Chapman, Cameron Kelly, everybody.
You know, you look up, Kirk, you talked about, the last time you saw a rushing total like this for a team. There's a fateful game. We talked about it very early on, the 550 rushing yards that BYU had against Texas, the job that ended up costing Manny Diaz his job. Carolina is put 549 on the board. Very different kind of game. Taysom Hill was the one guy, you got to stop the quarterback run against BYU, and he went absolutely wild. For 250 on his own, and that set Manny on a course. It's been worked out obviously very well for him, but nightmares as he looks over there and sees 549 rushing today for Mac Brown's team.
Kind of eerie, 550, 549.
A little bit, yeah. Not in a good way for Diaz. And Van Dyke is going to be sacked, baptized in this game by Clyde Pinder. Most yards allowed in school history. This comes on the heel, by the way, their first road shutout since 2000 and their biggest ever ACC win. You talk about a difference between last Saturday and today.
You can't, again, we can keep saying this, but I just can't figure out how Miami showed up to play the way they did tonight. It's just there's really no explanation. It'd be the last thing you would, based on the way this team looked like they were getting over the hump with wins against close wins over Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, Virginia. Those were close wins in the past. They would lose those games, but they fought, and I thought we're really building something special. And to have this kind of performance at the end of the year, it's just shocking.
Put Josh Downs back at punt returner, and Miami interfered with him.
It's not just that
you've been around football forever.
I'm just going to say, it's not that they lost 60, or they're down 62-26.
Kicking team number 7.
It's just
the penalty is 15 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
It's like they didn't get on the bus to come over to the stadium. It's like they're not even here. That's the thing that is shocking, is based on everything you've seen from this team and how they played and how they've come together. It just
says it all on the left there. Would you call it a fragile performance because things didn't go well early? Carolina came out firing, but you have to expect that offense to do it.
I mean,
they didn't react, couldn't respond.
You're coming into a game against a team that has a lot of talent and firepower. You know they're going to come in and swing. It's like a boxer showing up in the middle of the ring and just standing there.
Now it's the Tar Heels' turn to put in the true freshman at quarterback, Jacoby Criswell. Dual threat type athlete, and Josh Henderson finally gets a carry. He goes to other than Carter and Williams.
Yeah, this is what we've seen. You know, the counter play, and then they get to the edge, and then you got space. You got to get off blocks. You know, putting these safeties in tough spots. Again, look at the space, avoiding contact, kind of olaying blocks. There's more space for Carter, Javonte Williams, making it again hard on Carter. Trying to make a tackle, poor angles for the safeties, backers getting caught up in traffic. I mean, they've been able to run almost any play that they've wanted to run. Take it, just take it. It's yours.
Chance for just about everybody who made the trip for Carolina to get in the game now. British Brooks is the tailback, taking a turn, number 34. Canes don't play Georgia Tech. That was supposed to be the finale. COVID issues with the Yellow Jackets called that game off, so it's going to be no opportunity to redeem themselves in a week, and they'll have to wait their bowl fate. This is the kind of program-shaking loss that you just wonder, how is Miami, which has had some late-season blues in recent years, and Miami's been Manny's been trying to address that big elephant in the room. They had overcome a lot of things that had given this program problems. Off a bye week, had struggled. Did better this year. Close games, did better. They took care of the teams they were supposed to beat easily, which has often been a problem for this program. But this one is pretty shattering.
Well, it's on national TV, and a lot of people are watching. People are excited to see Miami with one loss. Let's see what they can do. Can they secure and finish 9-1 and go to the Orange Bowl? And now Manny Diaz and your staff, and now you got to go back out and recruit and talk about, hey, you know, what I would sell is come in here and help us get over the hump. We don't want to have these kind of games that we show up flat and we don't have a competitive spirit about us. We need some leadership. We need some playmakers, and you can help us. And I know recruiting as of right now is going very well. They've got some big-time commitments with the early signing period coming up.
Criswell bobbles the snap and just has to fall on it in what should be the final play of this game. North Carolina coming out. Yeah, that's it. They're going to shake hands here, and that's going to do it. Well, you've seen something historic today. Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, the two running backs combine for 544 yards and 5 touchdowns. Two teammates never had a combined rushing day like that. It's a milestone, as we mentioned, for Carolina. 16 years since their last top 10 win.
It's a big day for North Carolina. Tough day for De'Ara King and the Canes. This is a momentum-building win to be celebrated for North Carolina and for Mack Brown, who finishes up his second year of going back to Chapel Hill.
We will see you folks. Hope you'll join us for Notre Dame and Clemson, the rematch for the ACC Championship and playoff bids and all that stuff next Saturday night in Charlotte. Tonight on ABC, the annual Pac-12 battle for the Victory Bell, USC and UCLA from the Rose Bowl, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 on the West Coast. Game produced by Bill Bonnell, directed by Derek Mobley. We thank Mike Black, Mark Amento, Darren Brown, Bill Lamagne. For Maria and Kirk, I'm Chris Fowler. Send you right now to Kevin Nagandi in the studio. Kevin, all yours.